https://www.twitch.tv/timetravelingYam. Yo. Gang.
What's up, y'all? Hope you guys are having a great fucking day. I know I am. I'm a little hungry, so I'm gonna look for some food a little bit. But as far as this game, I'm gonna put something on for you guys to watch. I'm looking for some mods for Twitch. Twitch is in the bio if you guys want to go check that stream out. That one, I'm just watching Kai stream, reacting to that. Hope you guys are having a great day, bro. I'm gonna put this race on, make myself some grub. Get my day started, y'all. Try to do this. Go. Dynamic viewing. Watch the latest round. We'll go here to there. Let's see how long PS4 takes, bro. PS4 game. Oh, that's actually a sweet looking yeah, looking for mods though for YouTube and Twitch gang. 32,000 views. Like it. Oh, damn, this should take forever. Don't be here. Let that shit play out.
Series in 2026 here in Milan in front of quite possibly the loudest crowd we have ever had, and this is an opportunity for manufacturers and for drivers to get their names on the scoreboard for the first time this season. Let's have a look and remind you how the grid is going to line up here at the Nordschleife. So it's Jose Serrano, reigning champions Porsche, on pole position. Maximilian Kroll for Ferrari lines up on the front row. Nissan and Mikołaj Sejak lining up at the head of the second row, with Mercedes and Jack Bolding making his debut in P4. Then it's BMW Samuel Moreno in P5, with Lexus and Antonio Santos sixth on the grid. Next up is Mazda and Pol Ura. They struggled, didn't make it through into the top six shootout, with Hafidi and Volkswagen alongside. Then it's Audi, Kilian Drumont, new manufacturer for the Frenchman. Toyota have got Benjamin Hengse behind the wheel for this season. Subaru's Callum Moxon lines up P11, and 12th and last on the grid is Miroslav Kravchenko for Lamborghini. Now, we know, of course, tyre strategy is something to mention in this one. The top four going for the medium tyres. Nobody opting for softs at the start of this one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that people feel the need to use them at this point. We know it's a short-lived tyre, that Dunlop soft tyre, so I think maybe at this point it's just let's feel it out. You know, those who are at the back of the pack, I think, are maybe just hoping that they can make their way through, but there's no big strategic plays there, which means all the action, all the overtakes are going to have to happen on track.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you can see there, this is the calm before the storm now, really, for these drivers. They're sat there in the rigs, and I guarantee if we had a heart rate monitor on them, they would be beating out of their chest, because despite the fact that we've got some very experienced drivers in the GT World Series, that pressure, that tension, it all comes down to the performances out on track. And they know that this is the first opportunity for them to go well, really, to get those points on the board, to start their season off in the right way, and to hopefully help their teammates with the opportunity. Let's see what happens then as Manufacturers' Cup 2026 begins here at the Nordschleife. Jose Serrano leads the field across the line, followed by Kroll, followed by Sejak and Balding, etc. Then the hard-shod runners of Moreno will be in the background. Let's see what they can do as we come down the Dottinger and head in towards the left-hander as we go over the rise. Will we see any changes for position? Because it's a very long straight, and look at that already, because you've got Sejak attacking against Maximilian Kroll for second position. We flick it through the left-hander. Kroll does manage to hold on to P2 for now, but at the front of the race, it's Jose Serrano that leads for Porsche.
Yeah, really surprising to not see any big position changes there, given the nature of the run down to, well, what was Garbenkopf now, as we come backwards and sort of make our way slowly towards the Belfast. We're on board with Moreno in the BMW right now, and to be honest, at the moment, there's not really anywhere to overtake for this section. Just try and get close to the car in front at the moment. Balding and the top four, a little bit of a gap, and that's because they're on that medium compounder tyre. They're going to have a pace advantage early on in this race, so the closer Moreno and the rest of the hard runners can stay to the medium shod drivers, the better, as you watch Sejak now in third position behind Kroll. Always been very quick in that Nissan GTR, but 6 laps here at the ring. It's going to be a challenge for even him.
Certainly is. On board we are then with Jack Bolding as we flick it through this left and then the right-hander through the forest, but in the opposite direction. On board we are now here with the British driver, and as we said, qualifying is one thing. Doing it under racing circumstances, though, is completely different. You can see we're now rising up the hill as opposed to at this particular point when we would be dropping down it. Just a point to mention, by the way, whilst we're on the opening lap of action, we are experiencing a technical issue with the PlayStation account and GT7. It means the viewer campaign isn't working at the moment, but it's a work in progress. You can still watch and claim the gift even after the stream has ended. You've got a couple of weeks, so don't panic if you can't watch it from your PlayStation 5 at the moment. We will get that sorted and you will be rewarded as a result of it. But Jack Bolding there, still in fourth place, still pretty static at the front of this race on this opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up now to what will be probably one of the overtaken zones. It'll be the run down towards Bergwerk after the carousel here. Let's see if these guys can get through here better than I did. They can. What a surprise.
It's almost like it's their job.
It almost is. Yeah, very, very difficult way to put the car in there. Like I said, you're under a lot of load coming downhill there, and it's very easy just to get it wrong on the way in as we now come down towards what will be the mud curve at the bottom here. There is Serrano leading away. The gap up to almost a second, so he's almost getting out of slipstream range, which is a good indicator that the pace is there for Serrano and Team Porsche. Although I've got to say Moreno and Santos there, the hard runners in the BMW and Lexus, doing a good job to stay within touching distance too. So that hard tyre maybe a bit improved over what it was last year.
I suppose that's the name of the game, isn't it, really, when you're on that hard tyre at the moment, is damage limitation, really. If you can stick with the medium job runners as best as you can. I mean, 6 laps doesn't sound like a long time. Here at the Nordschleife, as we said, about 45-minute race duration, all being well for the drivers. So those who are on the hard tyres, all from 5th place downwards, they've just got to make sure they keep in touching distance of the cars in front, and they will be in a good position come the end of it, because, of course, they'll have quicker tyre compounds to run, in theory. So looking at Sejak then, sitting in the wheel tracks here of Maximilian Krol. And Sejak, as I said, finished on the podium in Berlin last year. The Polish driver. Let's see what he can do here for Nissan. They are the 2023 Manufacturers' Cup champions. Ferrari, they've never won a Manufacturers' Cup title. Last time they were on the podium was back in Prague in 2024.
Yeah, Sejak getting very close there in the GTR. But this is where you have one of the challenges of driving around the ring here. It's just where do you pass? And when you do pass, you have to really, really throw it in. So here's Paul Ura. Bad qualifying for him, put him down in P7 for Team Mazda. What happened to him? Oh, just wide there, onto the grass. I'd love to tell you what corner that is, but I've got no idea from this perspective. And down to P9. So it goes to bad to worse. Actually now in P10 is Paul Ura. So really having a bad start to this race here this season in the Manufacturers' Cup for Team Mazda. Meanwhile, we go back on board with Sejak, and both him and Krol, I think, have closed up a little bit onto the back of Serrano now. So Serrano maybe not as quick as we first thought there, or maybe these guys keeping a little bit extra in the tank. But Sejak now really starting to push Krol along. I think he's starting to get a little bit impatient, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming in towards the first traditional Nürburgring circuit, the second half as we look at it. Let's have a look at Jack Bolding, Maximilian Krol, and also Mikolaj Sejak at the start of this race. And as this is coming down into the Dottinger Hood, you can see side by side there between the Ferrari and the Nissan. Sejak looking for that move on the outside, but Krol just about managing to cover him off at this particular point. We cross back to live racing action then here. So Sejak it is that's still in third position. He hasn't managed to find his way through on the German driver for now, but as you say, certainly signalling a statement of intent here, because he's all over the rear wing of that 296.
And Serrano now also back into it. So I thought maybe that this would be an easy run for Serrano, but the top three really close now. And Sejak is starting to get a little bit impatient. Where do you pass it on this version of the circuit? I think maybe you can have a go up here. If you've got a slipstream, you see Krol there pulling out to try and not being on the draft for whatever reason. No BOP to try and hide here, but then now it's just free abreast. Look at this, look how close this is after almost a lap here of the ring, coming now down through Flugplatz, down the hill. Speed's really high at this point, and now you have to try and pick your braking point. You're braking uphill here, so you can brake quite late, but really easy to overdo it and end up on the curbs and then end up in the wall, like we saw Paul Ura did earlier on in the lap.
Wouldn't mind being in Jack Baldwin's cockpit at the moment. He's got box office seats of this trio of drivers in front of him as it stands for the time being. The top three, as you can see, separated by just about half a second or so as they head towards the end of this first lap. Now, I wonder if we're going to get the hard shod runners coming in at the end of lap one and going on to either the medium or the soft competitive tyres. That might be our first time we'll see a divergence in strategy as Sejak just brushes the grass on the outside there.
Mate, you don't get away with that very often at the ring, I tell you that. So Sejak there doing well to keep the car pointing the right way. And now we come back onto the GP circuit. So this might be traditionally the best place to pass if you're close enough. But you see Krol and Serrano already sort of eking the gap out a little bit from Sejak behind. Balding is still there or thereabouts behind. So the top four all have pulled away, unsurprisingly, on that softer compounded tyre, the medium, softer than the hard compound. I know what I'm saying. It's a medium compounded tyre. And Moreno there leading the hard tyre runners. So, of course, all tyres must be used, the medium, hard and the soft, and that will come into play a bit later on. Now, we use the cut through here, not the full GP circuit, which is a really tough corner from this angle, because on the exit, the road falls away from you. You can end up going off into the grass on the outside. So there is our Dunlop tyre strategy down in the bottom left-hand corner there. The soft tyre, we think, only good for one lap, and these mediums only for two. So Serrano's only going to have one more lap of pace at the front before having to choose which way to go.
Absolutely, and we have seen drivers bucking the trends of that in the GT World Series pretty much ever since day dot. So let's wait and see whether that strategy will prove to be the one that they'll follow, or whether we'll see anybody coming in at the end of this pit lane. Don't think it'll be the case for the medium tyres because, of course, they're quicker than the hard job runners that are out on them at the moment. So we'll come across the line. Serrano, it is, of course, that will still lead with Kroll and Sejak. So they blast past the pit lane and head down towards the Döttinger Hill. We're coming towards the end now of this first lap. The gap to Moreno, the first of those hard job runners, up to nearly 5 seconds. So you can just see how different it is in terms of the pace over the course of this lap, because especially where it's one at a time and there's all these medium speed corners, you're just eking out a tenth here, a tenth there, and that gap has built up quite significantly as we come to the end of that first tour here.
So here it is, probably the second opportunity to overtake here. A huge straight. Here comes the slipstream in action. Looking back there from Serrano, that Ferrari already starting to catch in the slipstream there. We'll have just a little bit extra, a little bit less air resistance. So the car now putting up to the back of the rear wing. Maybe he's close enough. Serrano is very heavily defending the inside here, but it might not matter. There goes Kroll, maybe up into the lead. Yeah, just about by up into the lead goes Kroll in Team Ferrari. So all it took there was a long straight, and now the home favourite, Team Ferrari, up into the lead, but only for now. Serrano is now glued to the rear end of that Ferrari, and we know he's not going to let him get away.
I tell you what, it does make things interesting, though, because the Döttinger Hill, normally it's down halfway down that straight, really. You see moves being made, but it's right towards the end of it, so you have to have a lot of commitment, especially going through that left-hander at the end of it. So good stuff from Kroll there. Great from Jose Serrano. Decided not to fight that one too much, did he, really? Tried to defend it on the inside, but he knows it's going to be in vain, such is the length of that Döttinger Hill straight. So now all he's got to do is sit there behind Kroll, hope that either the German driver makes a mistake here at this reverse Nordschleife layout, or Serrano can just maybe save a bit of tyres, save a bit of fuel at this early stage of the race, and just maybe work out where Kroll's weaker, because coming towards the end of it, that could prove to be the difference between, you know, winning and losing this one potentially.
Mate, you see Kroll climbing all over these curbs, and some of them, you know, I think maybe his luck might run out at some point. These curbs, they're very high here on the Nürburgring, and if you touch them in the wrong way, they tend to just spit you out. So Kroll there playing with fire, but that's the pace you need to bring to these competitions. You need to really use everything at your disposal, which right now Kroll is trying to do to build a gap from the reigning champion, Jose Serrano.
Antonio Santos, meanwhile, has just dropped behind Kylian Drumont, so the Frenchman is up into 5th position. So clearly Santos has made a mistake on that lap, or just been passed on the Döttinger Hill potentially. But yeah, half a second or so, relatively speaking, for the gap between Drumont and Santos. Maybe it's just an overtake there for position between those two drivers. But either way, good news there for Kylian Drumont. The gap, though, between the hard and the medium job runners now up to 6.5 seconds here as we're on lap 2.
Yeah, we're looking really, really interesting strategic options opening up here for our drivers. I mean, I was just looking at Kylian Drumont there when you were chatting to me, Tom, and he's gained 4 places since the start of this race. So he is moving. So he is quick on that hard tyre. Maybe we don't see it particularly now because of P5, but that Audi, he was saying it's quick. So here's a look back. Here is Drumont and Santos. Moreno there, just a sitting duck in a straight line, getting just split there by Santos and by Drumont. And you must think of your Moreno, oh, God damn it. What can I even do about that?
Ricardo Zonta Simulator 2026, that's what that was. Look at this.
Brave Drumont was there.
Super commitment. Good also awareness from Santos just to give him that racing room on the inside. Fantastic from Kylian Drumont and also Antonio Santos. Sad there for Moreno, but it might come back to him a little bit later on. He's still sitting on the coattails of the Lexus in 7th place as it stands for now. Point to mention from Kylian Drumont and also Antonio Santos. Sad there for Moreno, but it might come back to him a little bit later on. He's still sitting on the coattails of the Lexus in 7th place as it stands for now. Point to mention as well for the likes of Pol Ura and Miroslav Kravchenko. I actually shared the taxi with them from the airport over to the venue here in Milan yesterday and was chatting away to them. They were saying that basically the cars that they're driving, the Mazda and the Lamborghini, not the fastest out there on track. They've struggled a bit with the balance of performance updates for 2026, and as such, that's why they're a fair way off as it stands for now. They'll be hoping for a bit more fortune and hopefully a little bit more pace later on this year. Now, delighted to be able to welcome to the commentary box Nico Menzel. Nico, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, you know the Nordschleife very well. What do you make of it in reverse?
It's unbelievable. I almost do not recognize it any time. But, you know, it's actually, now I can see that's a crazy track we're racing in. Because I think we are used to drive the normal Nordschleife. And now you can actually feel the quick corners, the craziness about the barriers being so close. And it's great. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the scariest part is the idea of coming down from Mutkov to Bergwerk at like 280 kph and then having to stop at the end there. I just can't imagine that in real life. But obviously, Gran Turismo here has a very accurate version of the ring, and you're very familiar with this Porsche here. I mean, did you find yourself using the simulators to try and prepare for these events?
Yeah, for sure. I also prepared myself for the 24. I mean, I'm used to drive this car on this track for many years, but still to get back in the rhythm, after a while not being in a car is always helpful. And especially I practice the night, because the vision and then the night is obviously different. I also practiced the bad weather in the night, which is very special on this track. And honestly, it helped me a lot during the night, especially just getting in the rhythm quicker. And it's fairly crazy to see, back Arenberg-Kurve. And Schwedenkreuz should be easy flat out that way, but another good opportunity for an overtake now, following all the way up to Flugplatz.
Yeah, you can see Serrano here sitting in the wheel tracks of Maximilian Krol as we come over that crest of the hill. He's going to pull to the outside of the Ferrari then. So it's Ferrari versus Porsche, Serrano versus Krol, and Serrano then with the outside line, which is going to flick to the inside line as they come over the crest and go into the left-hander. And the Spanish driver back through and into the lead once again. Fantastic commitment from Serrano and great driving also from Krol.
It's so foreign to me seeing these guys go that quickly. Like, there's no exit there for the Flugplatz. It's so mad. I mean, obviously we had the 24 recently. Very interesting experience for everyone involved.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you think if you have any advice to give these guys now? Of course, completely different experience, although maybe slightly similar. How would you? What advice would you give these guys driving on this circuit in this configuration?
I think it's about initial driving, really. Nordschleife requires a lot of initial driving skills, and I guess it's the same now going reverse. The trickiness, as you just said, is as now we can see the replay, slipstreaming all the way, using the side draft, also very important, and especially Lüttinghöhe, but also here, it's not only the slipstream following a car, but also the side draft, because at some point it slows you even down, so you gotta actually move to the side at some point to avoid that wave of airstream. You do not have the exit curbs, right? I mean, the exit curbs are now on the entry, and you used to try to use them to prepare your car better into the corners. But not having the exit curbs makes it even more special. So stay more or less on the tarmac, I'd say.
That's a good tip. Stay on the tarmac. I like that. Good
so
tip.
we're coming towards the end of this second lap now here, and I think we're going to start to see the pit stops coming through from these medium shod runners, because they're coming towards the end of their tyre life, really. According to the strategy that we saw on screen earlier on, about 2 laps is what we're expecting for the medium runners. So that would be Serrano, Krol, Sejak and Balding all in to the end of the pit lane. Let's wait and see what they will do then, whether we'll see any changes further behind as well for those hard shod runners. Drumont, the gap now up to nearly 10 seconds between Balding and then the Frenchman. So in towards the pit lane we are about to go then, and surely we're going to see some drivers coming in, but the medium shod runners think they can get another lap out of it here then.
You know how this works by now, Tom. Yeah, you get your strategy and it gets thrown out the window. Although, mate, I don't know if there's like another pit lane or anything, because the start and finish line's in a different spot.
No, it's definitely the pit lane. It's the normal pit lane.
It isn't just like the TF car park or something.
Well, Yora's just come into the pit lane to give you an idea.
All right,
there he is.
I don't know about you, Nico, but when I see this, I get like a shiver. I'm like, oh, God, they're going the wrong way up the pit lane.
Honestly, all the time.
But that's interesting as well for the hard shod runners, because you've got, 4 or 5 drivers that haven't pitted there. Yura and Moxon, they've decided to try something differently here. So, I mean, that's a good thing for them in terms of they're now going to have a bit more pace here, Nico. But the problem is they're going to be on sort of more worn, softer competitive tyres later on in the race.
Yeah, but I think like the medium guys, they could actually manage their race a bit better because they had more or less free air, especially the first 2 guys, not fighting that much and just trying to save the tire as much as they can to just have one stop in the end. So I think there is a bigger benefit in the end to probably go whatever, like 3-4 seconds a lap slower, but therefore you don't have to stop another time.
So looking at Krol here then in second position. Serrano, as we know, of course, back through into the lead last time around. Look at the gap that the top 2 have now been able to build over Mikołaj Sejak then here. Just looking at the sort of difference in sector times, Krol was actually fastest overall in the entire race on that first sector, I beg your pardon, of the lap. And that was about 1.8 seconds quicker than Sejak. So clearly, I think the Polish driver's made a mistake.
Catch him, and here's a replay of maybe why that was. So it's just after the Dottinger here, and he comes for this very tricky Garbankov
grass.
there just grabs the grass and then the wool, and just so easy to do that anywhere on this circuit here. What I was going to say is that, plus maybe some other things, he does have a lot more tyre wear than the cars around him. That front right tyre is looking pretty second hand there for Sejak, and he's got to bring that now all the way around the circuit, which is now a anti-clockwise circuit. So that's going to be tough for Sejak.
Do you think there could be a legacy of the drivetrain layout? It's a front engine, rear drive car, obviously more weight of the front axle, and that's causing the front tyres to scrub a bit.
For sure. I mean, once there is more force on the tire, it also gets stressed more. But probably you're not in the rhythm as you are, going the right direction, and you overturn the car here and there. So I think it's all about managing the driving style. Just turn as much as you really need, and overturning the front means also you scrub the front, you overheat it a bit, and therefore front tire can also have a bigger drop in the end of the day. I think this part honestly is one of the most scariest, isn't it? Going all the way down and now into the carousel. Crazy.
Yeah, it's where I had my unceremonious crash earlier when I was trying to drive it. You go down and think, oh, okay, and the front's loaded in the weird way, you try and brake and nothing happens, and you just go straight off into the woods. Obviously not ideal for our competitors, but turning into a bit of a two-horse race now on the medium runners. It's Serrano and Kroll. Sejak is starting to maybe bring a little bit of that gap back. He actually had the fastest Sector 5 of anyone the last sector they went through just then. So the pace is still there for the Nissan driver, but the damage is done there at that earlier incident.
Keep an eye out as well for Jura. The gap there, 17.5 seconds between himself and Hafidi. That's going to come down because, of course, he's now on a quicker compound tyre and a new compound tyre. So let's see what sort of inroad he's going to be able to make now he's in clear air. You can see Maximilian Kroll all over the rear wing once again here of Jose Serrano. This is where, of course, we're getting into the circuit now. Will open up as we head in towards the sort of second half of it. You can see Serrano there just taking a wider sort of V line through the corner, but Kroll all over the rear wing here of this Porsche. It seems like a case of when and not if he's going to try and attack. We're going to come over the crest of the hill. Serrano just able to defend. Kroll gets out of the throttle a little bit early, just biding his time at the moment.
Look how steep it is down there. You never realise it when you're going the other way up there, but you almost fall down.
17%, on that occasion.
Ridiculous, 17%.
Steepest
Imagine trying to break down that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So if you're Maximilian Kroll here, Nico, you're sitting in this position in P2. Do you think it's a case of attack, or would you be sitting there waiting?
Honestly, in this part of the track, you're more the waiter. You're trying to have, like, as he does now, 50 meters distance to the car ahead, because otherwise you just scrub your front tires and you destroy them. GT3 cars, it's a lot of dirty air, a lot of aerodynamics, and it's all about saving the tire for actually then the GP circuit to make benefit out of that, having a good front axle there, and there you can overtake better, and it was in the grass there.
Yeah, Serrano just pushing the envelope here. He's got to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, surely. I mean, those front tyres and the rears actually now are going to start crying out as we get already to the halfway stage of this race here at the Nordschleife. As you said, pretty much a two-horse race at the front, Jimmy. 2.7 seconds they've now got over Mikołaj Sejek. Just a point on Pol Jura. Gap was about 17.5 seconds. It's already down to under 16 seconds now.
Well, I mean, the question that's sort of being posed to us now, you think about it, these guys have made the medium tyre last another lap. Is that Dunlop soft tyre also going to last another lap? So, I mean, we tend to find that the name of the game is to just don't use the hard tyre. Hard tyre is lava. It has to be used, but it's just very slow. But we're seeing that on the other end of the spectrum there. Some of these guys are trying to take that hard tyre for as long as possible. So I wonder if that is just not the play, because that tyre at this point hasn't worn that much compared to there. As we see another fight for the lead here comes Kroll, cruising back by Serrano. I never thought that would be an overtaking zone, but it seems to be our most overtaking zone of the race so far.
Yeah, to the delight of the Italian crowd here in Milan as well. They'd like seeing a Ferrari go through for the race lead here.
It's unbelievable, the crowd, honestly. I've barely seen something like it. I'm really...
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's amazing. It really is genuinely the loudest I think we've ever had in the GT World Series. So we're coming towards the end of the Nordschleife layout, as it were. We're going to be heading in towards the pit lane before long with these race leaders. Hengse there been given a warning for colliding with another car. Where's he? P8 at the moment in that Toyota. Different manufacturer for Hengse. And we'll see how he's going to fare over the course of this season. But so far, it's not been a particularly brilliant start to their year. They, of course, are former champions, but the pace, clearly the BOP, not working out for them at this early stage of 2026.
At that stage now, it's very important to be close to the competitor in front because you know you're going to enter the GP circuit right now. So now it all opens up. It's a wider track, and now you have opportunities to overtake. So you're going to push all the way, like the last 1-2 kilometers before you actually enter the GP circuit, to be in a good overtake position, which did not really work out because the Ferrari had actually better traction out of.
Let's have a look here at Moreno and Santos then. This is in the battle for P6 in the race. Down the Dottinger Her, Moreno there using the slipstream to his advantage quite nicely and getting through on the Lexus.
But that's also the side draft effect. You see, now the car on the left actually regains some ground, and seeing like onboard sitting here, he should have actually moved to the right to be in a better position and to not give him that comeback on the straight. So it's not only slipstream but also side draft, really.
So, coming towards the end of the lap, we're about to go then with Kroll, Serrano, Sejak and Balding. Surely they're going to have to pick because those medium tyres are going to be absolutely crying for mercy now at this point. You can see there, especially for Sejak and Balding, those front tyres, of course, front-engine rear-wheel drive cars for both the Nissan and the AMG, they are in a much worse state than the top two as they do then jink over to the left-hand side, and they will come in for their first pit stop in the race so far. Now, which way are they going to go in terms of tyres? Do they go for the hard tyre, try and do one lap on those, and then try and extend the softs as long as they possibly can? Of course, they did one lap longer than we were expecting them to do on the medium tyres at the start of this one. And does everybody else follow suit? So Kroll and Serrano go onto the soft tyre then here. Sejak and Balding going for the hard tyre.
So for Sejak and Balding now, they're going to have to just do their best to try and get this hard tyre through the next lap as quick as possible. I have to think that soft tyre is capable of doing 2 laps. We will see now. I mean, this is the first time someone's used a soft in this race. We keep an eye on their tyre wear, but that must be the play, surely.
Well, keep an eye out as well for the likes of Drumont, Santos, etc. All of those drivers who were on the hard tyre, they've now pitted onto the medium competitive tyre. The gap, 15 seconds before those pit stops. So surely they're going to be taking that time out of them hand over fist.
One interesting scenario, though, you box quite a bit before the start-finish line, so you have to really think about that when making the play. It might also mean that you could use your hard tyre before coming to the end of a lap, because surely you can box in the last lap, put on the hard tyre, and just run to the lap. Without you have to use it once. Doesn't say one lap, though, does it?
It's true. It's a very good point. What do you think?
Well, that's how I think Michael Schumacher won the race. 20 years ago in F1.
Oh, yeah, and in Silverstone.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have a look then at the race lead, changing hands between Jose Serrano and Max Kroll then. So the Spaniard now back through in the Porsche. This battle continues to rain on. They flick it through into that left-hander, taking absolutely no liberties on the soft tyres on this outlap.
They have to push this now. This is a push tyre. You have to go as quick as possible, make the most of it. You can see the car shuffling as it goes over the bumps and all the little crests there. And these two, what performance from Kroll. You know, a relatively unknown driver for us, but he is hustling one of the greatest GT drivers of all time in Jose Serrano. So really good performance for him and Team Ferrari so far.
Well, Nico, we must let you go and watch the race with the rest of this Italian crowd here. Thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And looking forward to seeing what happens over the remainder of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun, guys. And it's going to be a good final, I think.
Thank you very much, mate.
Nice one. Cheers, fella. Thank you very much indeed. So, Jack Balding, we now ride on board with then in the wheel tracks of Mikołaj Sejak's Nissan. Over the crest of the hill we go, flicking it through into the right-hander. Both these drivers on the hard competitive tyre. You can see Pol Jura, he's out of position now at this point. He's on the medium competitive tyre, having pitted a lap or so sooner. He's made good ground up into P5. He's going to have Drumont bearing down on him, though, before too long, because he's about 3.5 seconds behind the Spanish driver in that Mazda for now. So let's keep an eye out and see how this will work, because Jura is in that position where, as I said, he's out of sequence, so he's going to have slower pace than the soft-shod Drumont, but also those tyres are going to be wearing out quite quickly here. So let's see how it goes here for Pol Jura, and also crucially for Kylian Drumont. That gap down to, what's it now, 8 seconds. I think it was 15 according to our timing screen prior to the pit stop.
I'll let you be the keeper of the Pol Jura time there, Tom. I've been looking elsewhere, so that's your one there. But as you say, tyre wear now is essential for the guys at the front, because they have to push this tyre as much as possible to try and defend from these guys who are going slower right now on that hard competitor tyre. But it's all the strategy is going to become clear at the end of this lap, basically. So we will just have to wait and see, and hopefully they can get through in one piece. Here's Kylian Drumont, so someone who's on the soft tyre. He's made up a lot of positions so far, currently up 3 from his starting position in that Audi, and looking quick as well. So to just a poor qualifying session from him, really. That really hindered him at the start there.
Yeah, well, of course, he's changed manufacturers. He's gone from Subaru, spent many years with them, won the title in the Manufacturers' Cup back in 2022, let's not forget. And I spoke to him last night. I said, what was the idea behind changing from Subaru? You've been with them for so long. He said, I just think the Audi's got more potential. I've tried it out in testing. I've been doing loads of laps with it, and I think it is going to be the car to beat. So he clearly is confident with that. The results haven't materialised so far in qualifying, but now he's doing this alternative strategy. Is this going to be what will bring the Frenchman into at least the fight for the top 5 and to get some points on the board in this opening round of the season?
Yeah, I mean, what a place to do this for the first time here at the ring. These guys, fresh from the winter, having their time off. Like, a nice, easy way to get back into the GT World Series. Nope, never going reverse. And some have adapted better than others. Unfortunately, Kravchenko for Team Lamborghini, we've not really spoken about him. It's because he's just, unfortunately, been nowhere in the race. He's about 30 seconds behind the nearest competitor there, really struggling. So not the start that Team Lambo would have wanted to this World Series, the Manufacturers' Cup, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, nice to see him on the international stage, Miroslav Kravchenko. Lovely chap, actually. And unfortunate for his start to the season, and indeed the team start to the season so far. But, as you say, 35 seconds off the back of the field at the moment. So clearly he's had some kind of an incident, maybe hit the wall or something along the lines of that. Now, Kilian Drumont, the gap was about 3 seconds or so earlier on in the lap. It's now down to 2.1 seconds. It's a case of when and not if that Audi is going to launch an attack here on Pol Ura's medium shod Mazda. Let's have a look at some battles going on then here between Serrano and Kroll. So we saw Serrano back through on Maximilian Kroll, but he ran it a bit wide there, just through the left-hander off onto the grass. That's about as close of a warning sign as you're going to get.
I mean, it just goes to show around here. I mean, you really can't make any mistakes, because any small offline mistake and you just find yourself immediately in the grass. And luckily Serrano was able to avoid the barrier there, but that has allowed Kroll to get right back onto the rear spoiler there of the Porsche driver. And we know that run up from Arenberg up towards the Flugplatz, that is now the run for the change of position. So here is Kroll, and bear in mind these guys will be doing little dress rehearsals as well for that final lap. Is it a good idea to pass here, or do I wait for the back straight? And the thing is, the start-finish line is actually not that far into the Dottinger-Hur, so I think this is going to be probably where we see our pass for the win at some point. Here comes Kroll again. He's done this one before. He'll do it again. Ferrari back up into the lead as we come into the Flugplatz, and I wonder now what's going through their head in terms of strategy. Tyre wear-wise, I do not think they can do more than one lap on this tyre. It has to be 2 on the hard, but these guys, if anyone's going to prove us wrong, it'll be these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Just a point, actually, about Miroslav Kravchenko. I said he was quite a way off the back of the field. He actually hasn't pitted yet in this race. He started on the hard tyre. He is still on the hard tyre. So forgive me for that small indiscretion, but we'll wait and see whether Kravchenko is just trying something different, whether it will close him onto the back of the field. I think points are going to be fair way off of it for the German driver, but Kilian Drumont is the man on the move at the moment. Now 1.2 seconds off the back of Pol Ura's Mazda. That gap has slowly been coming down over the course of this one, and likewise Ura has also been breaking into the deficit of Balding in front of him. It was, as I said, about 8 seconds or so the last time we checked. Now down to 5.2 seconds. The medium tyre, as we saw at the start of this race, about 2.2 quicker around this Nordschleife circuit than the hard tyre. So Sedjak and Balding could be coming under pressure before the end of the next lap here.
Yeah, I mean, like in the real world, this Audi is a very nervous car. Short wheelbase, mid-engine as well. But Drumont doing a very good job to make it look easy at the moment as he slowly reels in Pol Ura in that Mazda. Pol Ura, of course, another very quick driver from Spain. We've got a pair of them here, and himself and Serrano. Kroll actually a little bit of a gap now, half a second towards Serrano. And they are coming round now to think about making their pit stop. So I do wonder. I mean, I'm looking. We have access to tyre wear here. We can see a little bit of that on our end, and it's a lot of the soft tyres are already down at about 50%. So here is our Dunlop pit stop prediction there. I don't think we're going to see more than one lap on that soft, Tom.
That's a tricky thing, isn't it? You could try and eke it out, but if you do, they are going to be screaming in pain at the end of that penultimate lap. And ultimately, that's going to, I think, cost you more time than you will lose with another lap on what would be the hard compound of tyre then for those two drivers at the front at this point in the race. And indeed, they come straight into the box. No surprise there at all. So hard tyres to the end of the race for Kroll and Serrano. Sedjak and Balding, of course, they are doing something different. They started on the they're going to be on the soft tyre, aren't they, in fact, at the end of the race, because they went for the hard tyre in the middle stint. So that could bring them right into play in terms of closing that gap down. I don't know if it's going to be enough for them to be within striking distance, but never say never in the world of Gran Turismo. Either way, all three soft job runners, Kroll as well as Serrano and Drumont, all into the box. They go on to medium tyres for Drumont and hard tyres for the top two.
Now, this is interesting because they've come out in traffic with Moxon as well, who's on some fairly worn medium tyres, but we'll see what that pace differential is. And for Kroll and Serrano, ideally they're ahead of Moxon, but if Moxon gets ahead, that's really going to ruin their race plan. I mean, we had Nico here in the booth a second ago. He was saying that clean air, super important around here. You have space in front of you, so right now, that's okay. It looks like that Subaru is actually starting to fall off at the back there. We've always known historically it's not been the quickest in a straight line. Serrano there making his move back up into 6th position. And we think maybe the aggregate lead of the race. But this is where this race is going to start to get interesting, because Sedgwick and Balding, they owe a stop at the front on that hard compounded tyre. But they've got that clear air now. Then on the last lap, they're going to have a soft tyre, and they're going to be rockets. So I think on circuit, it's going to have to be an overtake on circuit for it to work out, but this is the way you have to get your calculators out. It gets very complicated here.
Well, let's have a look at the gap. What is it? 15 seconds, 15.2 seconds between Serrano and Sedgwick as it stands for now. Both those drivers are on the hard compound of tyre. Serrano and Kroll were in the race lead. That's what we expect at the moment to be that race lead. They are now starting to pull away from Moxon, which is good news, because the last thing that Serrano and Kroll needed to do is start getting involved in a fight, start squabbling amongst one another, bring them back into Moxon's sort of wheel tracks, if you like, allow him to have a dive up the inside, and then it costs them time, because at the end of the race they could lose position once those final pit stops have worked out for the leaders at the moment of Sedgwick and Balding. So on board we are then here with Kroll, and so him and Serrano, basically they've got to work together. They're tied here at this point until it comes to the point where they're not, right at the very end of this race, but they've got to play it so smart over this next lap and a half or so.
Well, I mean, you say that, I'm a driver. I understand sometimes that you aren't very smart when you're driving. You see the guy in front of you, you think, you know what, I can have him, I'm quicker, I should be the one leading this train. And that's where it gets maybe a little bit tricky. But they've been playing nice so far, these guys. There's been no silliness, but yeah, Max doing a good job in that Ferrari. Very quick, and we've not really seen Ferrari at the sharp end properly like this for a while. A proper contender here. So I know it's been a lot of suffering for Ferrari fans across the world, but maybe this is your year. Maybe.
Hey, we'll wait and see how it works out. Just looking at the gap again between Sedgwick and Serrano, it's actually increased up to now 16.3 seconds. So and Kroll all over the rear wing of the 911 as we come through into the carousel. You can't go 2 by 2 through there. You can see Kroll modulating that throttle as he tries to get the power down as soon as he possibly can. And as we come through in towards the left-hander, it's still as you were between the German and the Italian manufacturer for now. See them there on the bottom corner of your screen. Serrano on the left and then Kroll on the right-hand side of your picture.
I've got to say, special mention there to Moxon, currently in 8th position, doing such a good job there. This is someone that only really used a gamepad until now, and now is moving over to the wheel and doing well on it. It's a hard transition to make. So, yeah, good job there for Moxon and P8. Yeah,
and a particularly big transition to jump onto the international stage here in the GT
worse,
World Series with a very loud and passionate crowd behind you. It is a proper assault on the senses, and fair play to Callum Moxon sitting there in P8 in that Subaru. Let's see whether some points could be on offer for that manufacturer later on this season. Meanwhile, Kroll there again on the attack against the Porsche driver of Jose Serrano. Serrano again defending that line as we come through and flick it into the left-hander. We're heading in towards the sort of overtaking zone as we've found out over the course of this race so far, and you wonder whether Kroll is going to launch a move here on Jose Serrano. He's starting to look a little bit impatient, moving that car left, moving it right, and trying out a few different lines here.
I mean, I think the Kroll is faster because he's just stuck to the rear end of Serrano. I mean, there is a little bit of a draft you get from the car in front, but not this much. And I think that the reason that Kroll is so close is just he just has a quicker package right now. But Serrano, of course, ever the champ, just knows where to place his car, knows the strategy he needs to do to keep himself in the lead. But he's going to need all that experience now, all that skill, if he's going to keep this aggregate lead here from Kroll. So coming up now, this is Callan Hart, but reverse as we now come down towards What is Adenauer forced? Say hello to the Rebel Tree on the right-hand side. Hello, Rebel Tree. Hope you're doing well. And we move now down to where Kroll will be starting to think, okay, we are on the second to last lap. I know where I can pass him, but can he pass me back if I'm leading there? It becomes a bit of a chess game here, which feels a bit ridiculous when these guys are navigating a half marathon each lap of corners. It's insane.
Yeah, that gap had stabilised at about 16.2 seconds. It stayed roughly about the same over the course of the lap so far. You can see Kroll there just feathering the throttle, such as the overspeed that he's got here on Jose Serrano. And is he going to launch a move into the left-hander? Not quite at the moment, but again, he's there ready for the taking, ready to pounce. As we come through that left-hander.
Sorry, Tom, Serrano there was actually sideways on the exit. So really pushing their Porsche. So here comes Kroll. He's going to have a draft all the way up the hill now. So has the overspeed of Serrano in front. Serrano goes to the inside to defend all he can really do. Kroll goes around the outside. We've seen this move many times already. And Kroll back ahead of Serrano. But that puts him, of course, in firing range for the Dr. in about a minute or so's time. So what Kroll really needs to do here is just try and make a gap on that GP circuit. Try and get away. So obviously he's been saving a little bit behind Serrano here. Tyre-wise, they're looking quite similar. But if there's anywhere to push, he needs to push on that GP circuit. He needs about a second and a bit, I think, to stay away from Serrano. And right now, Serrano, likewise, is glued to the back of that Ferrari. So this fight is going to go down to the wire if it stays like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sedgak and Bolding, as we know, of course, they're on the alternate strategy on that hard compound of tyre as it stands for now. So don't discount them from this one. Let's see whether that proves to pay dividends for them. But as I say, I still think Kroll and Serrano, I just think they're working quite nicely at this particular point. They're not costing each other too much time. They're not tripping over each other corner by corner. They're not sending one off fire. One on the outside. Sedgak, meanwhile, has picked up a penalty. Red dot flashing next to his name. Presumably, that's track limits because we didn't see anything coming up on screen saying that anything's under investigation. So maybe he's just ran over a curb and been a bit too greedy. But either way, that could drop him behind Bolding here.
So he's done that just after the penalty line. So where is it? It's coming on to the GP circuit. It must have been a chicane here. Yeah, just maybe taking a bit too much there inside of the white line. And this is usually where you serve the penalty, right here. But he was awarded it just afterwards, so that means he's going to have to serve that penalty on the last lap. So any fight he's in, he needs he needs about a second around him to survive that. So that's really going to change the landscape of this race. But it just shows you how hard he's pushing at the front there just to try and make that time up.
They're just about to come into the pit lane here as well, Jimmy. So Sedgak and Bolding are about to come in. Likewise, Jura, Hengse and Moreno, who were, as we said, a little bit out of sequence earlier on in this one. So we'll see what it looks like between Jose Serrano and Kroll as they come through this final sector. Then they do not owe another pit stop in this race, just to remind you, as it stands for now. So Sedgak in, Bolding in, as well as Pol Jura, Hengse and Moreno. So 2 hard shod and 3 medium shod runners. And look at it, a plethora of soft tyres, which is going to be such a headache for the likes of Kroll and Serrano at this one. They're going to be on the hard tyres right now to the end. And is it going to leave them vulnerable on this final flying lap? Or are we going to see the top 2 still battling amongst one another for victory? So through into the left-hander we go. Back onto the Nordschleife for the penultimate time. It's Kroll that leads from Jose Serrano, half a second. But what's the gap to the likes of Sedgak and Bolding? That's the important one. 10.5 seconds. Of course, Sedgak, as we know, has got that half-second penalty. It's not insurmountable because it's about 6.6 seconds over the course of a lap is what we reckon the delta is between the hard and the soft tyre. So that could bring Sedgak and Bolding right into play in the closing stage of this one. Eyes, though, on the front of this race, and eyes on Jose Serrano blasting to the inside, down the Döttinger Höhe on Max Kroll as we come in towards the left-hander. The Porsche, once again, is back through on the Ferrari into the lead.
You know, Max is probably going to allow that because he's not thinking about this pass here. He's thinking about the pass up towards the Flugplatz in about a lap's time or half a lap's time. So this is where now they need to keep his cool. If you're Jose Serrano, you've got to push now. You've got to try and make a gap. We've seen that this Ferrari has the legs in a straight line, so Serrano needs to use every bit of cornering performance from that Porsche in front there to try and get away. But what an impressive performance here from Max Kroll in that Ferrari. Doing so well here. And, really showing that Ferrari can fight at the top.
I was just about to say, Drew Mont's done really well to get himself into 4th place, but Bolding's just managed to mug him on those soft tyres at the end of this one. So Drew Mont, he's got, 5 seconds over Pol Jura. That might be enough for him to hold on to a top 5 finish and and bag a couple of points for Audi in his debut for that team. But Max Kroll, we're on board with him then here. 10 seconds the deficit down to Sejak, so they might be okay if they don't squabble too much over the course of this lap. If they start knocking 7 bells out of each other, it might allow Sejak to close the gap down and maybe launch something towards the end of it. But as it stands for now, it's Ferrari and Porsche that are battling for victory.
They just don't have the speed, Sejak, right now. He needs to really just up his game, to be honest. 9 seconds is a lot around here, and I don't think he's going to catch unless he really has a mega lap or these guys start fighting. Saying that, the gap is coming down, so never say never. We know how quick Sejak is in that Nissan, but he does have that penalty to contend with as well, that flashing red dot for a track limit warning he picked up at the end of the last lap. So it's got to be huge here from Team Nissan. But Serrano and Kroll, these guys have been just tied together for the entire race, it feels like. It's been awesome viewing here as Serrano really pushing now down towards the carousel. Really easy place to get things wrong, of course, if you saw from my footage a bit earlier on, as the sun begins to set here, and Kroll really attacking the entry of the carousel here, right onto the back of that Porsche. Familiar sight for him, but what a great fight this has been so far.
What a great job as well from Max Kroll. Let's not forget this, the GT World Series. Let's have a look at Balding and Drumont. We saw they were under investigation for a collision earlier on. There's Sejak up in front with the penalty. Through the mini carousel we go. Balding just gives a little tap to the rear. He's going to slide his way to the inside. I think that's okay, to be honest with you. Bit of rubbing, bit of racing, and a bit of confusion. But either way, Balding through on the Frenchman in the Audi for 4th place for now. But Serrano and Kroll, the drivers that we've got our eyes on at the sharp end of this one, with just over half a lap to go here in the first race of the Manufacturers' Cup in 2026. And Kroll looking aggressive, looking menacing on the outside there of the Porsche, but no way through for now.
These two guys absolutely rocketing down towards Bergwerk now. Speeds of 270 plus kph. The front brake discs there glowing the force of trying to slow these cars down to that part of the circuit. Serrano, his mirrors full of Ferrari. Max Kroll has really shown the pace of this thing as we now come to what is realistically the last few places to look at overtake now. If you're Max Kroll, we know where he likes to try and do this. He's waiting for his run out of Arenberg up towards Flugplatz, but he needs to be close for that to work. He can't let Serrano get away. And right now he's basically pushing the Spaniard along. This must be such a weird feeling for Serrano. He's been dominant over the last couple of events here, and now he's really being made to work for it. We love to see it here, of course, in the GT World Series. Our first round of the Manufacturers' Cup Grand Final coming to a head here with only half a lap to go at the ring.
Well, we saw that Max Kroll is in the final year of his apprenticeship at the moment, and he's certainly earning his stripes in his apprenticeship in the GT World Series, this being his first event on the debut stage. He's all over the back of the old hand of Jose Serrano, looking for a way through, but Serrano blocks the line, holds the apex for now. We come through the left, then we come through the right. We're going to start the circuit beginning to open up as we head into the next series of it. And are we going to see Kroll being able to launch an attack? Will Serrano be able to defend any form of attack from the Italian driver? And of course the Italian crowd here in Milan, let's not forget, they would love to see a Ferrari taking the victory.
Such is the pace of these two, is that Sejak's only really managed to gain about a second on that soft compound tyre over the Haas. These guys pushing really, really hard right now. And now if you are Max Kroll, you are thinking, right, okay, here is my chance to strike. What do you do, though, as Jose Serrano up the hill to defend this? I think you just have to sit in the middle of the road and hope maybe to make things difficult. You can't intentionally block here, but whatever happens now, we're about to get our answer.
So through into the left-hander we go then. Serrano it is that leads. Maximilian Kroll hunting him down then, trying to fight for victory, fight for Ferrari's first top step of the podium since 2024. Serrano, of course, the reigning champion with that Porsche team, would love to continue where they left off at the end of 2025. Let's see, though, how it is all going to work out. On board we ride here with Max Kroll. Serrano defending the line to the inside, forcing Kroll to the outside. Side by side they go, and Serrano does manage to hold on to the race lead for now, but has Kroll got anything left in his pocket? Can he launch an attack and a retaliation on his way through the next series of corners again in the slipstream? He looks to the inside, but Serrano defends that line, holds the apex and holds the race lead as we head and blast towards the GP circuit for the last time.
I thought we were going to see a huge crash there, Tom. He really had to go on the outside there, but Serrano obviously just waiting. I think he backed him up there on the apex and then just got away because Kroll was nowhere near where he was previously. And the result of that now is Serrano is still ahead and he's rapidly running out of chances to make this move for the lead. But that is experience. That is someone who's won the championship before, who's won Manufacturers and Nations Cup. You're never going to have an easy time racing Jose Serrano there, and Max Kroll finding that out the hard way.
So let's see how it works out as we head on towards the Grand Prix circuit for one more time. Of course, they'll go on to the Döttinger Höhe. That's where the finish line is. They clip their way over the curb. Serrano it is that still leads. 0.3 of a second in his pocket, and it's so difficult to fire one through on the inside here. There's not really an opportunity for Max Kroll. He's in the slipstream here. He's closing that deficit down, but he's not going to be there to launch one on the inside of the Porsche as we flick it through the left and then the right-hander. He needs to try and pressure Jose Serrano into a mistake, but we know that the wise old head of the Spaniard, relatively speaking to the young pretender of Max Kroll, he is so calm under pressure here is Jose Serrano, and he is soaking it up like a sponge.
A much better line-up there for Kroll and Serrano, but we come into the arena section now and really you're running out of opportunities to make this move. You have maybe one last lunge into the hairpin if you're feeling very brave, but we know Serrano's going to cover that. On board with Max Kroll now, you sense a little bit of desperation from the German driver in the Italian branded Ferrari as we come into now the last real proper overtaking zone. Looks maybe to go into the back of him, no, not quite there, and now it's a run up the straight into the Döttinger Höhe. Sedgwick and Balding fighting behind, but I just don't think, Tom, there's enough time left. No,
Serrano got a really, really strong exit out of that final corner in particular. Well, relatively speaking, as we come on to the second but last straight then here at the Nürburgring. And Serrano is going to be under pressure here from Kroll, but we flick it through the left, we flick it through the right. He needs to hope for a mistake from the Spaniard as we blast on towards the Döttinger Höhe for the final time. So it's Serrano versus Kroll. It's Porsche versus Ferrari for not the first time that we've said in the Gran Turismo World Series. And as we head towards the timing line, which of these two drivers is going to win it? Will it be the reigning champion or will it be the young pretender? As we get ready to take the checkered flag here, Serrano pulls to the inside as Kroll slipstreams him, and to take the checkered flag, there's contact over the line and Serrano wins it for Porsche. A phenomenal drive from the reigning champion to continue where they left off at the end of the 2025 season. It's the Spaniard and the German manufacturer on top ahead of the German in the Italian car here at the Nordschleife, and Balding in the Mercedes AMG will take a podium on his debut in the GT World Series. Also a fantastic drive, calm, composed and controlled. As you said, Jimmy, there is no substitute for experience.
You have to think there, Kroll just lost that on the last lap. I think he had every chance to beat Serrano there, but maybe just didn't position his car in the right way coming out of Arenberg, and that was his place to overtake. That was his place to make that move and just couldn't quite get it done. But great to see Serrano there, still hungry and just always the man to beat. Of course, as we said, big congratulations to Jack Balding as well on his debut. Straight away on the podium for Team AMG. Strong start there for the German manufacturer, seeing them come back into the fray as well. But really, the story today was about two people and two brands, Serrano and Kroll, and Porsche and Ferrari. A great battle there throughout the race.
Amazing job from Jose Serrano and Maximilian Kroll. Fantastic to kick off the GT World Series in 2026 with such a strong battle. There's Valerio Gallo, former Nations Cup champion. He'll be hoping to do the business in a couple of hours' time when we get our first race underway there. But, well... So 12 drivers lining up for this, and here is how it all breaks down. They had a qualifying session earlier on today which determined the grid for this race. As I said, this race is going to determine the grid for the grand final. Jose Serrano in the Aston Martin DB3 on pole position, with Kilian Drumont in the Porsche alongside. Samuel Moreno, the newcomer, third on the grid for the Spaniard, with Takuma Miyazono nipping at his heels. Next up, you've got Ryota Kokubun returning after a sabbatical. He lines up P5 with Lucas Benelli in the Mercedes 300 SL, the Gullwing in P6. Hometown favourite Valerio Gallo, to the roar of the crowd here, has got Pol Eura for company in the Alfa Romeo alongside him. Then it's Kai de Bruin in the Jaguar D-Type in 9th position, with Samuel Cardinal completing the top 10. Guy Barbara lines up P11 for the Australian nationality, and then Adriano Carazza completes the grid in P12.
Did I see that Gallo had his luggage with him there in the back of the car there, just to make sure he had something to eat when he got around? Interesting.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting to see how it all breaks down. So it's a 10-lapper here. It's a rolling start for the drivers as well, which should spread the field out relatively evenly down towards that first corner, which would be quite handy because I imagine it's going to be a big difference in stopping distance compared to the Red Bull X 2019s, of which they qualified.
Yeah, there's a lot of different weights and powers here. Some cars absolutely rapid in a straight line, some very light as well. So we're going to see a real mix down towards T1, and I have no idea which way this is going to go. But that's why Nations Cup is so much fun.
Absolutely. Well, there is Kilian Drumont as he just takes a breath, as well as Valerio Gallo, the hometown hero, with so much pressure on his shoulders, lining up P7 on the grid here. An opportunity for him to move forward and secure a good grid slot ahead of the grand final in the Nations Cup. But who wins this one then, as we get ready to go racing? The sprint race here at the Sardinia Road Course is underway, with Serrano leading the field across the line, followed by Kilian Drumont, who slipstreams his way into the lead already as we come in towards the first corner. Keep an eye out for Moreno as well, who's looking to his outside. Miyazono there on the inside in fourth position as well. So it's Drumont that leads, Serrano into second, Moreno into third, Miyazono and Kokubun trying to squabble for places, as well as Pol Eura making some ground. He's up 2 from 8th on the grid into P6 at the exit of turn 2.
Here comes Moreno up the inside maybe of Serrano, going into the middle part of the circuit now, side by side the Ferrari and the DB3, just about keeping them out the door of each other. I'm just hoping they don't hit each other here. I mean, I know, of course, these cars are virtual, but there's something in me which is like, man, there's a lot of money on this grid right now. As you watch Moreno just about stay ahead of Serrano. Drumont, though, in that 550 Spider, a lot of pace in that thing. Very quick in the straight line, very light, and maybe that was the car of choice around here.
Yeah, the drivers who qualified higher up the order got first pick, basically, at the cars for this one. So, if you, for example, if you were Jose Serrano, you got first pick, and second for Kilian Drumont, etc. So that's the way that he's gone with it. Drumont it is that still leads by 0.3 of a second. Battle for P2, though, very much underway, because you've got Moreno side by side here with his compatriot Jose Serrano. Miyazono's keeping a watching brief. Drumont's deep, though, into the left-hander. That's opened the door for Moreno to walk through it and take the front of the race over from the Frenchman.
A little bit of contact there between the two of them, but that's just racing around here. Of course, these cars move around quite a lot in the braking zone, so it's quite hard really to predict where they're going to be at each particular point. But what a sight that is. All different manners of shapes and sizes working their way through the S's. Now to one of the heavy braking zones here. Now these cars are really lazy on the brake pad. We've got to give it a lot of time. You see Moreno going a bit wide, Drumont going a bit wide, Serrano was up the inside there in the Aston Martin, and we get a great view alongside the on board the 356 with Takuma Miyazono, of course, someone who's won this Nations Cup outright before. He's been pretty much every position on the podium as well, so knows how to win a race here. In the background, Gallo there, making a mistake, touching the wall there in the Mercedes and just slowing himself down the straight. You see, even these little kinks are quite considerable corners for these cars.
And look at what it's done to him. It's left him right under pressure from the likes of Ryota Kokobun and the prevailing field as well. They're about a million wide down this start-finish rate. Gallo's got the inside line, but he's going to drop 3, maybe even 4 places here as he's down to P10. He was 7th before he made that mistake across the line. So it's all changing at the sharp end of the race as well, because Takuma Miyazono it is that now leads from Samuel Moreno. How did that happen?
I think we're too busy watching Gallo there having his incident, and Miyazono took advantage off camera, and up he goes there in that very pretty little Porsche. So up to first place goes Miyazono from Moreno from Ura. Where's Serrano? Serrano is down in 9th position, so something must happen there to Jose Serrano.
Yeah, you'd imagine there must have been a bit of contact, which has sent the Spaniard tumbling down the order, which is not great at all. Let's wait and see what happens. Yeah, Drummond and Serrano under investigation for a collision, so you wonder whether one of them is outbraking themselves and nerfed into the side of the other. We'll wait and see what happens. I'm sure we'll get a replay, especially if any penalties are awarded. Either way, at the sharp end, it's Miyazono now from Moreno and Pol Ura then and Serrano, so they split Moreno down into turn 1. Drummond on the inside, Serrano there as well, and they just there was a bit of contact on the exit of the corner, so Drummond dropped down and Serrano also losing out in the process.
Yeah, very tricky there. I think they just got caught out by the lack of straight line speed there from that 550. Sorry, no, it was Moreno, from the Ferrari, so they just ended up going each side of each other. But meanwhile, Miyazono leading from Ura and from Moreno. 2 Spaniards hounding this car. This is where we're going to see a difference in the straight line speeds here. Gallo, interesting, has made his way back up to 5th to his incident on the first lap. Here's on board with Takuma Miyazono how he went from 4th to 1st in one corner. So we're going to get down on T1. Moreno just slows down that car, runs out of acceleration. They'll have their accident, and Miyazono goes, well, thank you very much, mate. I'll take that. Up to lead I go.
Problem with Serrano there is he's on the outside, and you're always leaving yourself vulnerable to situations like that. De Bruyne's picked up a penalty for a collision there as well. He's in P4 as it stands, but will drop down the order, you would imagine. Top 3 looking to try and break away in all the chaos that's unfolding. We begin lap 3 with Miyazono still in front from Moreno and Ura. So good starts to the race then, as we said, for Moreno and also for Pol Ura, as well as now Kai De Bruyne. De Bruyne, though, as we said, with that penalty, he's going to surely drop down into the coattails of Valerio Gallo, who, let's not forget, a couple of laps ago was 10th across the line after he lost out following that mistake, and he's now managed to get his way up into P5 with a nice comfortable cushion over Serrano behind.
Yeah, I mean, of the front-running cars, you wouldn't put really Gallo in that Mercedes in the same bracket, would you? It's a big old thing, but it seems to be running well in 5th position. Miyazono still leading this train up front. And I do enjoy these races where we see the different cars and the different strengths and weaknesses. It's very grand Turismo for me. It's what the game's all about. As watching Moreno now maybe make a move on Miyazono. We know that Ferrari runs out of top-end speed a little bit as we get up to the braking zone. Miyazono managing to hold him on the outside now, and you see, pulling back past. And that's going to be a bit of a difficulty for Moreno. But he's got the brakes. Up the inside he goes, and up into the lead goes Moreno. So you're seeing the differences there. Moreno's car much better on the brakes in the corner, and Miyazono having that straight line speed advantage, but with Hutch you have to wonder which is a better one to have.
Right, let's have a look here at Kylian Drummond, who's attacking against Guy Barber and Jose Serrano. Oh, more contact there down to turn 1. He's way too late on the brakes and biffs it into the back of Adriano Corazza. The Barber then gets into the side of him. The C's part for the Spaniard as Serrano goes through on the inside, and Drummond just looking like he forgot the pedal. Phenomenal.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I've made that face a million times. I'm like, oh, oopsie. But, it happens. Like, this is what I was saying about the brake pedal. Like, it's the braking distances are so much longer in these older cars that it can catch you out. It really can, especially when some of these cars are better than others. And we're seeing now Miyazono absolutely rocketing by Moreno as he's just stuck there in 5th gear, nothing else he can do. No more top end speed, but then on the brakes he's right back there again, and so is Pol Ura there up on the inside. Pol Ura in the 8C Touring, and man, doing it in style is Pol Ura.
I love seeing Pol Ura coming through on the inside. He looks like he's an LA gangster or something in that blacked out machine as he scythed his way through on the inside. Said, hello, there we are. gets the position on his compatriots and is through for second position as well. Look at the top three. They've managed to build up 3.5 seconds over the prevailing field. De Bruyne and Gallo are the next targets, and they're a fair chunk down the road. This is good for Valerio Gallo and possibly his grid position for the grand final. He's now all over the back of De Bruyne, who's just served that penalty following the contact that we saw.
But watch this straight line speed of this Mercedes compared to the D-Type in front. I mean, bear in mind, there's about 20 years between him in terms of age, but Gallo there to show, well, here we go, choo-choo. Thank you very much, mate. Off I go. I've got another 20 or 30 horsepower on you. It's only got 4 gears, though, I think. No, he's got. I thought he only had 4 gears there. But it's over 200 kph in something from the 20s. Not something I like to do. And then trying to outbrake a D-Type into the braking zone. Big shout from the crowd there as Gallo gets it done up into 4th position. So he'd be a bit upset, I think, Gallo, because that first group has broken away. And I think realistically, unless he has a really good run now, he's going to struggle to catch them. As Serrano also recovering in the background there. But 4th place isn't a bad start.
No, second row of the grid for Valerio Gallo at the moment as Kylian Drumont picks up a penalty for that collision that we saw a couple of laps ago. Meanwhile, all change at the front then as Pol Jura is through for the race lead on Takuma Miyazono. So again, this story continues changing. And let's see whether we're going to get a breakaway here because Pol Jura trying to build out a gap. What he'd love is Moreno and Miyazono to start fighting. But the straight line speed of the car that Jura's in there looking pretty handy as it stands for now.
It does, but Miyazono also in that Porsche, again, very, very quick down the straights is that little mini Porsche there. So up the inside, outside, I should say, goes Miyazono in the 3.56. Going to have a little look. Oh, there goes Moreno too. So, yeah, there really is, a top end for these cars. Maybe they run into the limiter in a certain gear. It's so interesting to see as Gallo has to defend from De Bruyne there in the background, just about doing so, I think. But Miyazono, Moreno and Jura covered by only 4/10 of a second right now, and seemingly with no one blinking. On board with Pol Jura. Look at this beautiful interior in this thing, man. The craftsmanship in here. All of that being thoroughly ignored right now while Pol Jura just wrings the neck out of it, which is exactly what you want to see in these races.
Just to give you an idea, by the way, of getting these cars into Gran Turismo, it's a very much an expedited process. Takes an awfully long time. There's thousands, tens of thousands of photographs that has to be taken of each individual car. That's not including, of course, sourcing those cars in the first place. Then, of course, it's going to be scanned in the game, and it takes such a long time. So the level of detail is absolutely phenomenal. Meanwhile, Moreno, not worried about the detail of the interior of his car. He is worried about the race lead, though, as he goes through on Miyazono once more, uses the advantage there of the slipstream. So that's good news for him. But I think it's going to leave him vulnerable again coming onto this next straight, isn't it? That's the problem with that Ferrari. So he's got to make up time on the brakes. But the question remains, if we get to the latter half of it and when we go through to those final couple of laps, is he going to be in a position to attack for that race lead, or is he just going to run out of puff?
I don't really know. I mean we've seen that the Moreno, I think he just gets past the start-finish line and the car starts to give up a little bit. So Miyazono's got to be close and have a good move. So because the Ferrari's good here out of the corners. It's got really good punch out the corner. It's light, it's nimble. But about now to get into 4th gear, the Porsche, which is also light and pretty powerful as well for what it is, starts to reel him back in, plus the draft as well. So let's get a little dress rehearsal. Let's pretend it's the last lap. The start-finish line's under that little gantry there. Would Miyazono make it? No, not quite. So that's good for Miyazono to know. Like, if I need to be closer than that on the last lap if I want to win this race. So those little moves like that, it's all part of the game.
Guy Barbara's having a good one as well. He's up into 7th position from near enough last on the grid. He was P11 where he started, so he's worked out quite nicely for the Australian driver. You see Samuel Moreno's pre-race ritual, taking a full nap and waking up just 20 minutes before qualifying. That's the Kimi Raikkonen strategy.
Well, it's working so far. He's fighting for the lead here in one of the most prestigious sim racing events in the world. So you can't argue with that, can you, really? I mean, here's Miyazono, Moreno and Jura all in your screen there. You're seeing the picture-in-picture of Serrano working his way back up from 6th. He is catching Gallo, I think, but not by enough at the moment. Actually, at the moment, fast person on track is Moreno, the only man to go into the 159s. So a lot of pace up front right now.
On board here we are then with Valerio Gallo. Wall on the outside there, De Bruyne directly in front of him. This is where we know that Mercedes is quite strong, and it might leave De Bruyne vulnerable here to an attack from the Italian driver. The crowd are going to absolutely love this as he sends his way to the inside. Over the crest of the hill we go, into the braking zone. Gallo is through for now on Kai De Bruyne, but is De Bruyne going to be able to use the nimbleness, the agility of that Jaguar to try and launch an attack? Look at how much better it is mid-corner in particular. Just can get that car rotated and turned so much tighter.
I mean, what do you expect? You could fit one of those in Gallo's car. Like, it's a huge difference there. In fact, I'm surprised Gallo got out of the way if he could even see him like, going down the straight there. Here is Kai De Bruyne. Here's his POV. All he can see is Gallo's luggage there. Wonder what he's got in there. I mean, that's maybe a question for the live chat. Have fun with that, moderators. So Kai De Bruyne trying the outside line there, but Gallo just parking it. You don't want to be there. There's a barrier waiting to collect you on the outside there. And, I mean, Gallo doesn't really have a choice but to park it, to be honest. That thing's so heavy.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the different peaks and troughs. It's like watching a good revival race this, where you've got certain cars that are quicker in the corners, others which are quicker in the straights. And you can see visibly how much the advantage is there for Valerio Gallo as he just pulls away with ease from Kai De Bruyne. This is Guy Barbara in P7 at the moment. Cockburn and Benelli close behind on these battles on the fringes sort of the top 10. Cockburn looking to try an attack here on Guy Barbara. Just gets out of the throttle, goes for the outside line on the curb. We know that's brave. Can he make it stick, though, as they run side by side with each other? So the Mercedes there on the outside. Barbara has the inside, which is going to flick back to the inside line there for Cockburn, but Barbara's not giving this one up. He's still parking his car very much in the places where Cockburn would like to. Down the back straight we go, into the left-hander. Barbara manages to hold off the charge for now, but it could open the door possibly for Lucas Benelli behind if they keep squabbling here.
Oh, Cockburn's going to get it. He's been there side by side the entire time there, just trying to set himself up, but now, of course, he's on the outside for the next corner. There's Benelli there as well as we come in. Next corner's the left-hander. Guy Barbara just alongside enough to maybe keep the move, and Cockburn, can he? No, he can't. They're now running side by side, and Benelli behind's loving this. He's right there now in that Mercedes, and they've got their straight line speed. They're going to shove their way past Guy Barbara, and Cockburn up to 7th. Will Benelli be able to maybe mug Cockburn as well in a straight line in the draft as well? These guys side by side at 200 kph. Braking zone coming up. It's a left-hander. Barbara's got the advantage. He's going to try and split the two of them. Benelli's looking at the outside. That's not going to work, mate. And Cockburn finally is clear of Guy Barbara. And that all started at T1, putting the car around the outside. Beautiful racing from these guys.
Superb. Absolutely superb. Some of the cleanest battles we've ever seen in the GT World Series in some of the hardest cars to handle. Cockburn into 7th place there, but Barbara not ready to give this one up. He's surely going to launch an retaliation if he can. Down the back straight. Not going to be close enough for a move on the inside as it stands for now. But Benelli there, ready for the taking as well. Keep an eye out for the likes of Samuel Cardinal, actually, there in the background. He's not too far adrift of this one. Meanwhile, part 3 with Kai De Bruyne versus Valerio Gallo. De Bruyne managed to get ahead then of the Mercedes driver. So the Jaguar are now going to come under threat, and surely Gallo is going to just absolutely fire his way through as we come down into T1 with the straight line speed. But no, not quite for now. De Bruyne holds it off, uses the weight advantage, and gets into 4th position in front of the Italian driver.
Can you imagine being in that D-type, looking in your mirror and seeing that behind you down the straight? I would just be terrified. I mean, the size difference is almost comical. But watching also Valerio handle that thing, hustle it through these corners is a sight to behold, for sure. So Gallo there in the Mercedes in front of them, Kai De Bruyne in the D-type. With that little fin on the end there. Basically used to stabilise the car at high speed. Very cool to see that these cars being raced in this way. And this is where we see the Mercedes have its advantage. The D-Type is pretty quick, but on the straight line speed, the raw engine capacity of this Mercedes-Benz just gives it a bit more oomph. And here we go then. To the outside goes Gallo once again. This battle's been going on for the entire race. And he just tries to drive around the outside. Now, will Kai De Bruyne try and break late here and keep the place? He does. They're alongside here. And Gallo's really got no option but to just give it to him at this point. He hasn't got that cornering agility.
Yeah, just can't get the car stopped. It's heavier on the brakes there, and obviously the brakes just clearly nowhere near as effective as Kai De Bruyne, but the punch and the power out of the corner there for Valerio Gallo just allows him to get greater speed, and he just goes through on Kai De Bruyne like the Dutchman was standing still. Meanwhile, sharp end of this race, Miyazono, Moreno and Euro, we've not mentioned them for a few laps. They're still separated by a couple of tenths of a second. I'm sure we'll pick that up over the last couple, but Gallo into 4th place for now. Sure, we've not seen the last of it, though.
God, man, look at these two. You couldn't have two more different cars fighting each other. And that is just, for me, the joy of Gran Turismo. You see both of them have a bit of smile on their face there. He's like, whatever. Nothing I can do here. That's just part of it. That's part of having these different cars in this Nations Cup event. Every every session matters. The qualifying session to pick these cars matters. This session matters. And of course, the grand final dictates everything else. And there goes Kai de Bruin, past Gallo again. And on board there, about 5.5 metres of bonnet or hood in front of you there, and a nice big aiming reticle in the Mercedes AMG 3 stars there.
Yeah, you got him quite literally in his sights. Yeah. Meanwhile, sharp end of this one, Moreno now in front from Miyazono. So it's two Spaniards with a Japanese driver in the middle of that sandwich. Through the left, through the right, they've been nose to tail for the last few laps of these drivers, and you would imagine that it's going to start to kick off before too long. Jura there has a bit of a look to the outside of Miyazono, who goes for the sort of shallower inside line down the backstraight, but then ducks over to the more traditional racing line. This race, just to remind you, determines the grid position for the grand final in the Nations Cup, which will be along the way in the not too distant future. Under the bridge we go, though. Is Jura going to think about launching an attack here on Takuma Miyazono? He pulls alongside the Porsche driver and just backs out of the throttle, gets out of the slipstream. Of course, Miyazono has got that hole in the air being punched in front of him by Moreno's Ferrari as well. And it's as you were as we come into the braking zone. Or is it? Because Jura finds a gap on the inside. Miyazono pushed to the curb on the outside there. And Jura tried to launch something on the exit of the corner. But the circuit there, as you can see, just jinks right. And he runs out of room to do it.
Man, that Alpha there in third place giving me solid Mr. Burns vibes. It's so cool to watch, but I have to think they're just waiting. They're just waiting, because I think Miyazono knows that if he's close enough here, he can win the race just from here, just by hitting the gas. And Pol Jura, same sort of thing. That Ferrari isn't the quickest, but they've given themselves an 8 tenths buffer to Moreno in front now, so they've got to be careful here. They can't fight too hard, otherwise Moreno is just going to get away with it. And we know that Ferrari in front is good for the twisties. Here is Miyazono, here is Pol Jura. Let's see how close they get down towards T1 and whether Moreno can build a gap or not.
So, on to the last lap we go. I wonder if there might be a bit of tactical gamesmanship here from these drivers as Miyazono then goes for the outside line here on Samuel Moreno. Jura there on the inside. Gap has appeared for the Spaniard. Moreno off nearly to the curb on the outside. It's as you were between these top three. But, of course, we're going into Monza, let's not forget. It's a slipstream race, and I wonder if the option might actually be to start from second position, so you've got the run going out of the first chicane. Not that these drivers are going to be worrying too much about that. I think they're having too much fun at the moment. Moreno still leads as we come through to the right-hander.
Well, what's happening now is that basically, I mean, you see Moreno's parents there watching on quite nervously, is they're all, Miyazono and Jura are both fighting for the right to have a go at Moreno on that last corner. So they both want to be ahead of each other. But they've got to be careful here, because if they end up knocking each other off the circuit, that gifts this win and pole in the final to Moreno. So we got on board with Pol Jura now. Here's really his last chance to get ahead of Miyazono before the final corner. But here's where that Porsche starts pulling, and here's where that Ferrari starts lacking. You see Miyazono opting to actually slow down there. Moreno goes defensive. Will Jura go around the outside of all of them? He's going to try and do it, but I don't think he's going to make it. Miyazono and Jura side by side. Pol Jura, he does make it around. He's got the ideal line here, but they're 2 by 2. Oh my word, Tom, and Jura is through up into P2.
Phenomenal bit of driving there from Pol Jura as he goes into second position. Next target is his compatriot Samuel Moreno then. So we flick it through into the left-hander. Just one more big braking zone now remaining as we're right on board here with Miyazono, who fancies another attack against Pol Jura. Don't know if they're going to be close enough to lunge up the inside of Moreno. Jura has a half look, but Moreno's got the line covered off. It's now going to be a run to the line here in the sprint race to determine the grid for the grand final. Moreno, Jura and Miyazono is your order as they exit through the final corner. Out of the right-handed kick, we're about to go, and we're going to blast to the timing line here. Will it be Moreno? Will it be Jura? Or will it be Miyazono who takes the checkered flag? It's out and waving, and which of these drivers will come across the line? It's Samuel Moreno who takes his first ever win in the Gran Turismo World Series on his debut, ahead of his compatriot Pol Jura, and Takuma Miyazono rounds off the podium in third, ahead of the hometown favourite Valerio Gallo in Milan, in P4, on the grid for the grand final.
Yeah, Gallo narrowly beating Kai de Bruin. In the background there, it's 3 wide for 8th position. Guy Barbara just taking it there from Benelli and Drummond.
who just took his first win, and as such, he lines up on pole position here for this race in the Red Bull X2019. It's Samuel Moreno who will head the field here at Monza at the Temple of Speed. 27 laps of action ready to come. Here is Moreno, the 18-year-old on pole position, with Pol Ura, sort of an experienced driver now, in second position on the grid. Takuma Miyazono heads row 2, and he has got Valerio Gallo, the hometown favourite, to the roar of the crowd here in Italy for company. Then it's Kai de Bruyne next up on row 3 with Jose Serrano, the reigning champion, alongside. Ryota Kokubun, returning after a year out from competition, is at P7, and he's got Guy Barbara, who did a great recovery job to get into P8 at the end of that sprint race. Lucas Bonelli is next up in P9. Completing the top 10 is Kilian Drumont, who's got a heck of a fight back to do after a dismal time in the sprint race. Then it's Sam Cardinal in P11 with Adriano Carrazza completing the 12-driver strong field. Soft, medium and hard tyres available for the drivers, and as you can see, the majority of the top 10 starting on the mediums.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a strategy we've not seen before. It's just those who are at the front want to go fast, and those at the back want to get rid of that hard tyre straight away. I mean, if you're looking at Moreno and Ura and Miyazono, I think they need to really focus on trying to work together a little bit at the start of this race, because the worst thing you can do when using that medium compounder tyre is squabble. You lose time. You have to think of the race as a whole, which is very tricky when you're racing side by side with very competitive people.
So then, how does this one go down? There are your drivers on the stage. There's the audience in the background. Over 1,000 people here in Milan, and we're waiting to find out who will be the master of Monza. Tension is in the air as they will come around the final corner, come across the timing line, and we will get ready to get racing underway here as the grand final at Monza for the Nations Cup is go. They lead them down over the timing line and head towards the first corner. So a rolling start then with Moreno, Ura and Miyazono. Will we see any Dandare moves on the brakes? Moreno looks like he's got the lead covered off for now. Miyazono has a look on Ura. Gallo there also looking a bit racy in fourth position. They exit the first chicane, which is a very tricky part of the lap because it does bottleneck up through there. But the upshot is the pole sitter of Samuel Moreno, the 18-year-old, holds the lead over Pol Ura for now.
Yeah, nice, neat and tidy start up front. Meanwhile, at the back, Guy Barbara losing 2 places, 3 places now on that medium compounder tyre. So a horrible start from him as we see Ura kick up some gravel on the outside of the first chicane there. And this is where these guys need to be careful. They don't want to have any big fights now. They don't want to be pushing each other off, having incidents, because this is right at the start of the race. You've got to try and be neat and tidy. You see in the background there, Kokubun on that hard compounder tyre, just moving to one side, I think, to try and let Serrano through. He knows his fight isn't with Serrano right now, and they'll just cost each other both time if they fight. So just let him through, be sensible, think of the race as a whole.
So explain to me why that is, Jimmy. Of course, it's obviously different tyre compounds here for Jose Serrano. He's on the medium tyre. Why has Kokubun not fought that for those who are just tuning into the GT World Series for the first time?
Because really Serrano's going to pass him anyway. And here is Serrano. I say that. He must have made a mistake at the start because he did start in 6th position. Yeah, that's why. So I thought it was out of the kindness in his heart, but actually it's because Kokubun caused that contact and moved him out the way. So showing good sportsmanship there by letting him back through again. But again, a bad start for Serrano here. So he's not having the perfect races he had last year.
Yeah, not very good at all there for Jose Serrano. Guy Barbara was the other driver that was caught up in all that melee, which is why he dropped down into 11th position initially on the opening lap. He's now back up into 10th place, but he basically came to a stop down at the Rettifilio. On board we are with Valerio Gallo as we exit through the Curva Grande, heading towards the Della Roggia chicane. Sparks flying underneath Miyazono. Massive closing speed there from the Italian driver as well. And you're threading the eye of a needle as you flick it through that left and that right. You can see the gravel awaiting those who make the mistakes on the outside. So the start of this race, pretty much as we were expecting to see for the medium shod runners, with the exception of Guy Barbara, who, as we know, of course, as I said a moment ago, was caught up in that first corner drama. So they're going to build out a gap in the early stages of this race compared to the hard-shod runners. But, of course, the converse to that is that they're going to owe that hard compound of tyre later on in the race. So it depends on what they're going to do in terms of their strategies and whether we'll see any divergence when it comes to the first pit stops.
Yeah, right now you're seeing the gap sort of all stabilising at the front, around half a second or so. The reason for that is because of dirty air. These cars produce a lot of downforce, and when you're following in the wake, it upsets the airflow going over your car, meaning you produce less downforce and you're a bit slower. So it's a good idea usually to give it about half a second or so, maybe a bit more, and it saves your tyres too, because all that time your car is is understeering in the aero, you're putting more load into the front tyres, trying to make up for that. So all good right now. Kai de Bruin is hanging on to the back of this group, but does look the slowest. And you see there in the bottom left-hand corner, that's Valerio Gallo's parents there. Here, of course, to give their son the support alongside the rest of the home audience here. Great support here for Gallo, and I'm sure he feels that right now.
Yeah, same expression on their face as his son has while he's driving, actually.
Yeah, you can tell they're related.
Yeah. Let's have another look then at Guy Barbara and Adriano Carrazza. Samuel Cardinal there in the background. This is just on the exit of the Curva Grande. They're side by side through the Della Roggia. Barbara on the curb on the inside, and well, it's difficult to work that one out because neither wanted to give that corner up, and to be honest, one of them sort of needed to, really.
Racing incident. Done. Finish.
There we go. Lovely stuff.
I'm not sure if the stewards agree, but I just think in those situations where they're fighting like that, as you say, they're both going in, they're both taking the risk, but one of them knows they might not make it out of that corner like that, and unfortunately that time it was Carrazza, so it just happens. Meanwhile, front of the pack, the top 4, top 5 cars very close together. Kai de Bruin just, as I say, narrowly holding on to Valerio Gallo in the background there, but anyone's race at this point. We're only 3 laps in, or nearly 4 laps in now, to what is a 27-lap race. And as we say, you must use every compound of the Dunlop tyre at least once, the medium, the hard, and the soft. So Miyazona looking maybe to the outside of Pol Euro there, and Euro feeling a need to defend a little bit.
They're keeping it quite calm, aren't they, at the sharp end of this one? No real moves being made at all, actually, inside the top 7. It's all exactly as they qualify. Barbara gets a penalty for colliding with another car. That's the instant down at the second chicane that we just saw with Carrazza a couple of moments ago. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've learned that the stewards, I know where they are now here, and they're bigger than me, so I'm not going to argue with them.
Have you seen the big stick down the middle of the table?
Great job, stewards. Love that.
Right, Guy Barbara then, 1 second penalty. Difficult day continues at the office for the Australian driver. On board we are, though, with the Italian, Valerio Gallo, as he exits his way out of the second Lesmo. We're going to come under the old banking, under the old circuit, and head in towards Ascari in a couple of moments' time. Now, the good news here for the likes of Euro, Miyazona and Gallo is they're all sitting in the slipstream. They can save fuel. It's a very fuel-intense track, this one here. And they can just sit there, lift off the throttle and not try and attack too much at this particular point, which might pay them dividends come the pit stops.
So you see there, Gallo really thinking about having the move and then going, actually, no, I'm going to just do what you say. Just save this fuel. Just get off the throttle, use the slipstream to pull the car along. And the result is just fuel saved, a shorter stop at the end of the race. Now, someone who is not going to be doing this, who's not going to be saving fuel, is Moreno at the front of the field. Now, saying that Gallo looking for a move now on Miyazona, thinking about it. Now, will Miyazona fight this? Yep, Gallo there up into P3, so clearly he thinks he's a bit quicker at this point. But will that break the toe to Pol Euro in front? 8 is the gap now. Gallo, we know, is quick in these cars, but I think it's fair to say sometimes can be a little bit inconsistent in how they are. So he's got to really get his head down now. Kai de Bruin also on Miyazona. They're looking into second chicane. Will Kai de Bruin go through? If he does, so Miyazona goes from 3rd to 5th in 2 corners there, and that's what happens, I think, maybe when you let someone through.
Just to give you an idea of the difference in pace there, Gallo last time around 26.3, De Bruin 25.8, Miyazona 26.6. So Miyazona must have made some kind of a mistake, you would assume, through that final corner or something.
They're just being slowed down by Moreno.
Right.
There's a bit of draft going on here as well, so that slows them all up. Here's Guy Barbara. Here's the reason why he got a penalty.
There's the first corner. This is the only lap.
It's for that. Okay, fair enough then. Yeah, I mean, that you could argue that is a penalty. It's avoidable contact. And Killian Drumont's opinion on that is, well, nothing. Good. Okay. So here is Moreno Euro and now Valerio Gallo, who has moved back into a slipstream range here. And you have to... Oh, are they coming into... I thought they were coming into box then. Moreno have a very sharp line, but he's just taking the least possible distance to start-finish line there.
Good point of discussion, actually, in the driver briefing for these guys this morning, actually, as well. We were talking about this, about can you dart like you're looking into the pit lane and not come in? And the stewards have said, yeah, that's fine. You can do that, basically. So that's why they're coming into the pit lane, basically trying to sell the other drivers a dummy and see whether they will come in. We've had 4 drivers box at the end of lap 5 then. So Cockburn, Drumont, Benelli and Cardinal all into the pits, all on the hard tyres and switching to the mediums for their first stop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Get off that tyre as soon as possible. Now, interestingly, you might be thinking, why is Pol Euro not making a move on Moreno? Why is he staying there? Why is Gallo kind of staying there right now, not pushing? Because this might be where we see Moreno's inexperience get him a little bit. Yeah, sure, he's leading the race. He's got a big number 1 next to his name. And talking of numbers next to their names, Miyazono picked up a 0.5 second penalty. That's track limits. So the start of his race really not going to plan for Takuma Miyazono. But to finish that initial thought there, where Moreno's out front, he's punching the hole in the air for everybody else. And everyone else behind them is saving fuel. So, mate, it feels good right now to be first, but everyone else thinking of the long game.
Yeah, we see this a lot in something like Formula E, for example, where you've got to lift and coast and save energy over the course of the race. And that's why you see a lot of slipstreaming battles. And the same principle applies here in this race. The upshot is that's Moreno now at the half-second lead. But as you say, he's going to be expending a little bit more fuel and also probably using a little bit more tyre life, you would imagine, just to try and stay at the sharp end.
This actually is a bit of saving grace for Serrano, because it then puts Miyazono back into slipstream range for Serrano, who's sort of fallen off the back after that incident at the start. And just like that, Jose Serrano is back in contention. Of course he is. Who else would who bring the car back like this? I mean, behind them is Guy Barber. He's the last person not to pit yet, but unfortunately, due to various circumstances, he's about 8 seconds at the back of his guys. But Miyazono will now be giving Serrano a tow back to Kai de Bruin if he can do pace similar to Kai de Bruin. So Serrano, look how fast he is there. He's not hanging about. Serrano up the inside of Miyazono, and the champion's charge back to the front of the field continues.
That was an aggressive chop over going into the first Lesmo, wasn't it? Fair play, though, to Serrano. He got track position, superlative drive out of the Della Roggia chicane, and he went through for 5th position, made that stick and made it look quite easy. Now, Miyazono can use the advantage of the slipstream that's being punched in the hole in the air in front of him by the Spanish driver. The question is, though, Serrano, he got 1.5 seconds to Kai de Bruin in front, so he needs to try and set basically a couple of qualifying laps to get himself off the Dutchman. Let's have another look and see how it all worked out there. So Miyazono through the Della Roggia, didn't particularly make that much of a mistake, just a little bit wide in the second part of the corner. Serrano said, thanks very much, great exit, and just sived on through.
He just seems to have much better traction. Yeah, that's all I can say there. And there's not that big of a difference, if any difference, in their tyre life. So it's just a better technique, it seems. Miyazono coming back at Serrano, giving a little bump down the straight there. That's not allowed. No bump drafting allowed in this series. Although if I was Miyazono, I'd be like, well, I tried to pass him. I was trying to move out. I just misjudged it.
Sorry, Your Honour.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Don't look at it too. Gallo with a penalty for track limits. This is what I'm talking about. Valerio just makes these little mistakes that he can't be affording to make right now.
Well, that one mistake there as well, what's that, half a second? It's going to drop him right into the clutches of the likes of Jose Serrano and Takuma Miyazono. So again, that's another beneficiary here for Serrano and Miyazono. It's going to bring him right back as a player. Brun sends it through on the inside of Valerio Gallo, who was a little bit deep there into the first Lesmo. The Dutchman is now into the final podium place. Valerio Gallo, big wobble out of the second Lesmo for Jose Serrano. That's going to cost him time and cost him track position here to Takuma Miyazono as we blast under the old banking. So all of the hard work there that Jose Serrano did, he's now got to do all over again on Takuma Miyazono.
This is good for Gallo because now he's got a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a gap behind him to fall back into, and hopefully now, he's not lost too much time there, so he'll still have a drive from
big drive.
who's that?
That's Moreno. That's the race leader that's off down at Alboreto at the final corner. Goodness me, what has happened there to Samuel Moreno? Huge drama at the end of lap 9. And the race leader, the rookie who has been so supreme in the Nations Cup thus far, is plummeted down the order and out of the lead of the race.
No idea there. I just saw him sideways. I have to either assume he caught the grass on braking or he was assisted maybe by Paul Ura. I don't want to say that before we see it. But and Kai de Bruin with a penalty as well. So now Gallo's going to be back into it. Man, this race all over the place.
Goodness me, we're going to have to see a replay of exactly what happened. Whilst we take a breath, let's welcome Mick Hazal to the commentary box. GT World Series royalty. Mick, great to have you here. What's your read of this race so far?
Firstly, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure to join you at the commentary here, but this is not a way how I wanted to join the commentary here.
Yeah, the commentator's curse is alive and well, I'm afraid to say. But I was just about to sing the praises of Samuel Moreno. We haven't seen what happened, so we'll wait for a replay on that one. Up until what's just happened, he was driving superbly well, though.
Indeed. So you can see that the top 6 previously, like before Moreno had the spin on the last corner, you were able to see that the top on pace.
Let's have a look then. So we're on board here with Samuel Moreno. So we're coming down into Alboreto. He just clips the grass on the entry to the corner and spins all on his own.
That's a shame.
I mean, the gaps these guys are playing with, Mick. I mean, you've driven at this level before.
Yeah.
It really is millimeters, isn't it, when you're
Yes.
driving like that?
Especially at the circuit, because you really want to use every single millimeter here. It can be like the braking point or like the driving line, because here, in most cases, you're just using the full throttle all the time. So there's not really a lot of opportunities where you can gain a lot of time. So yeah, it's such an easy mistake anybody can do here.
Serrano through on Miyazono for 4th place at the start of lap 10 as well. So the recovery for the second of the Spaniards now in this race continues. Valerio Gallo, meanwhile, in the wheel tracks here of Kai de Bruyne, who, after all of that and despite the penalty, still sits in second position. It's given a golden ticket, though, for Pol Jura, who's got 2.2 seconds now at the sharp end of this race. And you can see similar on tyre life, similar, you would imagine, on fuel consumption there as well. So it's worked out very handsomely here for him.
Yeah,
Yes,
but-
indeed. So in this race, you don't really need to save fuel with times 1 fuel consumption. But as for the tire wear, this is where the strategy will be really, really interesting here. So we were able to see like a prediction from the team, what the strategy might look like. But I was also talking to a few of the other drivers before what they intend to do here. So some of the other drivers, they want to extend the medium tires as long as possible in order to use the hard tire compound as, as, how should I say, not as much as possible in the end. So we might see some of the drivers going into the pits by the end of lap 15 or 16 potentially.
So I tell you what, Mick, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're Pol Jura right now. You've not
Yes.
made a stop yet. You're in the medium compounder tyre. You're leading the race by 2.2 seconds. What are you thinking? What's your strategy here?
So if I was Pol Jura, obviously I would be thinking, hey, this is perfect. Nobody's right behind of me using my
this.
slipstream. But this would also put more pressure onto yourself automatically, because you're not allowed to do like a single mistake even, which allows the competitors behind of you to close the gap down to you, and them also having the slipstream in the end. Because if you have the slipstream here, you can easily follow the driver in front of you. You can also save your tires by doing so. So in Pol Jura's case, I think he's really trying to extend the gap even.
So Pol Jura it is that leads then, 2.3 seconds the gap he has over Kai de Bruyne. Moreno's picked up another penalty just to compound his woes there in 6th position. That's the sort of snowball effect that can happen, really. You end up with one unfortunate incident and they just sort of come along like London buses. And unfortunately for Moreno, presumably a track limits one, because we didn't see anything flash up on the screen, but that's going to cost him a bit more time and give him a few more headaches later on in the race. On board we are meanwhile here with Valerio Gallo, the hometown hero in the slipstream still of Kai de Bruyne. Do you think he's just going to be, again, biding his time, waiting and saving fuel at this stage?
I think so. I mean, even at this stage here, they don't really want to allow themselves to go into a fight, because if they would fight right now, this would only allow Pol Jura to pull the gap even more, and you would just give Pol Jura the victory at this point. So I think they're trying to work together by this stage, and let's see.
But do you think maybe, because I get the impression that at the moment Pol Jura is a bit quicker than Kai de Bruyne,
Yeah.
just in this straight fight. And if you're, I mean, the lap time wise, it's about 2 tenths between the two. If you're Valerio Gallo, you think, come on, mate, get on with it, because he's getting away. I'm going to overtake you so I can lead instead. We'll catch him together. I mean,
You're completely right.
yeah, well, what do you do there? Because obviously you're stuck between not wanting to have a fight, but also like, come on, hurry up.
I think in Valerio's case here, you would probably look at Kai's pace for the next couple of laps to see whether he's really able to follow Pol Jura's pace. If he's not able to match the same lap times as Pol Jura, then obviously Valerio Gallo is probably going to try and overtake Kai as soon as possible.
I have a small question. Obviously, you've been a competitor here in the
Yes.
past. Have you ever been tempted just to reach over and be like, oi, come on, get out of the way, and just tell someone to get out of the way? Because they're right next to you.
Oh, look at here.
Yeah, De
Oh,
Bruyne
there
made
it
a
is.
mistake in the second part of Ascari there. That's allowed Valerio Gallo right on his rear wing. But you can see, again, he's lifting out the throttle, just waiting here, isn't he? And it's brought
look,
Serrano
yeah.
into the picture.
Yeah.
That's the problem, though, here, because that mistake, again, one simple error. We've been talking about it the entirety of the race, those fine margins, and now suddenly it's gone from a two-way to a three-way.
So this is being too cautious now. What I think Gallo should have done is gone for the move. Kai de Bruyne needs to go, okay, yep, I made a mistake there. I'm going to slot in behind you. And
this
all work
point, he will-
together.
Yeah.
He has to now. He's got no choice. He's alongside Kai de Bruyne. Then he's going to send it down in towards the Retafilio. Are we going to see a Spanish-shaped machine through on the inside as well? Not quite so. De Bruyne loses out to Valerio Gallo, who's now going to try and pounce and power away from those two drivers.
Lovely exit from Gallo there. That was important too, because Kai de Bruyne's going to be behind. Now, I think what Gallo is hoping is that Serrano's going to do sort of the same thing and give them a little bit of a gap, because now Gallo's leading this train, so it's up to him to try and match the pace of Pol Euro. The gap is 3 seconds, which isn't insurmountable, but it is enough to make a difference, of course. So Gallo now needs to get his head down and do the best he can to try and catch Pol Euro. Serrano, of course, we did speak about him earlier. What a recovery from Serrano. He's right back in it now. He's right in this train. Any of these guys can win this race at this point.
That simple mistake there from Kai de Bruin a couple of moments ago, it cost Gallo a second. He was 2.2 behind. He's now 3.2 behind.
Indeed. But once Pol Euro gets a track limit penalty here, it would open up the battle for the victory once again, because with the championship track limits here,
Serrano on the inside of Kai de Bruin into Alboreto. Can he make it stick? De Bruin just holds it firm around the outside, uses that momentum of sort of the wider line, as it were, and now they're in that slipstreaming battle down the back straight. Keep an eye out for Takuma Miyazono, who's joined into the party here as well. We're side by side with Gallo and De Bruin once again for second position. De Bruin with the outside line demotes Gallo back down into third place as they head into the first chicane.
But this is better, at least. I mean, it's hard when you're there fighting because you don't want to give the place up, but they are now moving forward. I mean, if we look at lap times, I say that actually, Pol was quicker than all of them last lap.
I mean, this is not really what you want to do at this stage here, because if we were looking at the gap from P2 to Pol Euro on the previous 2 laps, I think it was like 1 second lower. So 1 second less, I mean. So I'm not quite sure if these guys are probably going to start thinking, okay, I think Pol Euro already won this race at this point, so let's try to battle for P2.
We're right now in the pit window here as well, Mick. What are you going to do in terms of tyres? Do you think it's going to be a case of follow the leader, see what they do when they come in?
When I was mentioning before that some of the other drivers are thinking about extending the medium tyre compound as long as possible, I think all of them are going to try and go into the pits at the same time. But the question is going to be, are they also going to use the same tyre compound? Because after this, they only have to use either the hard tyre compound or the soft tyre compound.
Do you think it's worth taking a gamble, boxing first and trying to maybe get a bit of a gap somewhere, trying to move out? Because these guys, they're all in now, and there you go.
Aside from Serrano, yeah,
Serrano takes that gamble, so we're going to find out now if that's the right choice or not, I suppose. So Euro, De Bruin, Gallo, and Miyazono in soft for Pol Euro. We expected that. What about for the rest? Gallo and Miyazono going to the hard tyres, De Bruin on to the soft. Who gets out first? If you're Kai de Bruin on the soft tyre and you're stuck behind people, no, that's perfect for him. He's going to put away now. But also for Gallo, if he can try and stay with Kai de Bruin in the draft, that's basically free time for him on that hard compounder tyre.
Well, you'd imagine it wouldn't be as difficult at this circuit relative to some of the other tracks because of the slipstream, surely.
Indeed. But I expect that Kai de Bruin is going to start pulling away after Sector 1, which is going to be the chicane, the upcoming chicane. So, but even so, it would still help Valerio Gallo even a tiny bit, because if you can use the slipstream on a straight line, it's like 3 lap times. So obviously you want to use it in the end. But now the question is going to be with the hard tire compound, it's like the safest tire compound. You can extend it if you want to, but as Valerio Gallo as well as Takuma Miyazono still have to use the soft tire compound, they are probably going to start thinking, at which lap time am I going to start going into the pits in order to do the undercuts? But if they intend to go into the pits earlier, by the end of the race, the soft tyre compound are going to be almost gone. So
Serrano's going to come into the pit lane at the end of this one, and just to give you an idea of there he is. Just to give you an idea of the difference in sector time. Sector 2 on that last lap for Pol Euro, who's on the soft tyre, 28.4. Serrano on those worn-out medium tyres, 29.2. So he lost 0.8 of a second alone in sector 2. The gap was about 10 seconds or so, wasn't it? It's down to 9.5.
Fastest car on track right now, though, is San Marino, who went on to softs early.
Yeah.
And he's burning through the softs quite a lot, but he is there. Serrano now, is he going to come out ahead of Miyazono? He is there. So Serrano past Miyazono again and right onto the back of Gallo, who is on that hard compounder tyre. Now, if you're Valerio Gallo, you play how wide is my X 2019 now? You've got to try and hold up Serrano on this soft tyre. Although I must think maybe he's going to just let him have it because it's about that long. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for Serrano,
maybe not.
For Serrano to win this, he had to do that. He had to make that move as quickly as he could. Because if he got stuck behind Gallo, especially in this middle sector, that could be half a second, maybe a second that he loses in time, and that could be the difference between winning this race or fighting for a lower podium position.
Indeed.
Well, again, Mick, you've had experience in these races before. I mean, how much of your thought process is going points as a whole, the outside of the race. We'll get to that in a second. Here's Moreno on Drummond.
He's got another penalty here. Sent it to the inside at Ascari. That's a nice little move there on the soft tyre relative to Drummond's medium, but he's got a track limits penalty, one would assume, because it's flashing red next to his name.
It's so easy to receive a track limit penalty here. But to answer your question, Jimmy, when I was still a competitor in 2019, and we also went to the Salzburg World Tour event, we had the same track combination, like track car combination, and even at that time, I was fighting against Miyazono-san for the victory here, and usually the strategy we were using back then was we also had to refuel, and there you were also trying to think about, okay, what am I going to do differently in order to come out of top against Miyazono.
De Bruyn's got a penalty as well. That again must be for track limits. Right then, so 9 laps to go. It's time to crack open a cold one and enjoy this. So here we see with Kai De Bruyn out of the exit of Curva Grande, half-second penalty, presumably for track limits there then for the Dutchman. So that's a disappointing one for him, and it could bring him into play with Jose Serrano. Might be a bit of a saving grace there for Serrano. What's the gap? It's about 2 seconds or so there and thereabouts, but you don't just lose that half second, you lose all the time and the speed, so it's about a second sort of net loss time, so it might just bring him into slipstream range for the Spaniard.
Yeah, probably Paul Uro might also start thinking about maybe driving a bit safely around these corners here, because once you receive a track limit penalty, which we're going to see with Kai De Bruyn here, like the amount of time he's going to lose compared to Jose Serrano, for example, I think he really wants to try and bring it safely back home. So let's see, because the gap is already up to almost 4.2 seconds.
Do you think, based on this, that Serrano's got a chance of winning this race?
I doubt it, if I'm honest.
You think so?
I think so. I think Paul Uro already got this in the bag, unless something similar, something happens to him similarly to Moreno earlier, so or him getting multiple track limit penalties.
It's worked out really nicely here for Uro because he's been driving almost like qualifying laps the last couple, really. 1:24.4. Serrano's now matching that in terms of pace. The problem is it's just coming too late here for Serrano, and Uro's just built out that gap to 4 seconds now over Kai De Bruyn. 1.5 seconds further back from him is Jose Serrano, and that's the advantage there of being in the lead, sort of dictating it. And that overcut, the pit stop strategy's worked out really nicely. He came out in clear air, and he's not been fumbled since.
Indeed. And with Valerio Gallo and Takuma Miyazono, for example, as they're still using the hard tire compound here, I think they might still continue for another 2 or 3 more laps and trying to finish the race on a soft tire compound. But the issue with the soft tire compound is it wears so quickly, so any single wrong movement you do with the car around the circuit here is going to affect on your tires. So the soft riders really have to look after the tires.
So Moreno gets a warning for bump drafting there. He's also picked up another penalty for his troubles, as well as also Ryota Kokubun. They're down in 8th position. Do you think there could be a possibility of a podium in the closing stages of this one once the final pit stops have made? What's the gap to himself and Serrano? 5 seconds? I mean, it's a tall order, but is it out the realms of possibility, given that Serrano's going to be on the hard tyres at the end?
I think it's doable, because we also have to remember that once Valerio Gallo and Takuma Miyazono are going to be on the brand new soft tire compound, the other competitors in front of them are going to be in one soft tire compound. So they're already going to gain a lot of time compared to the drivers in front of them automatically. And with the hard tire compound being the slowest tire compound in general, it's going to be a really interesting and exciting finish to the race, I believe.
We're going to have an interesting situation coming up soon as well, with Moreno and Drummond both catching these two, Gallo and Miyazono, on these tyres. And of course, it's in these guys' best interest to try and facilitate any pass as easy as possible, or get to the box and get on the soft soon. I'd love to see our little tyre graphic again, because I've forgotten how long these soft tyres can go for. Tom, do you remember how long we say they reckon they go for this race?
Oh, some laps. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. Hang on a minute.
We'll get our Dunlop tyre graphic up again in a second, so we can definitely remember what that information was. But you have to think that as soon as there it is, that's it on cue. So basically, we're getting to a point now where maybe they're thinking about Gallo Miyazono coming in for that soft tyre and then just going hard at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be 7 laps to go at the end of this one, isn't it? Mick, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciated your insight. Absolutely phenomenal, as always. Go and find a comfy seat somewhere and enjoy the end of this race.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, and hopefully I'll be able to see you or join you guys on the next time and enjoy the commentary.
Always a pleasure, Mick. Thank you so much. 2019 champion Mikael Hazal joining us here for the Nations Cup. Gallo in, Miyazono in at the end of lap 19. Cockburn also in. Cardinal, the last pit stops are now taking place. So Gallo and Miyazono, they're going to go onto the soft tyre. Cockburn, Cardinal, Benelli, etc., they're all going to go onto the soft tyre as well at the end of this race. So they'll be in a good position in terms of their pace. But it's Gallo and Miyazono, the two drivers that we need to really watch at the end of this one. Now they're out of the pit lane, they're on soft tyres, and crucially, Jimmy...
Oh, Euro. Penalty.
Yeah, that must be for track limits, surely.
Maybe. I mean, this is what Mick Hazal was talking about. Sorry to cut over you there, Tom. I just shot me there. This is what Mick was talking about. You pick up one of these, or a couple of these, and this can unravel your race. And he was saying it's so easy here, because they've recently changed the white line rules here. It's much stricter track limits than we're used to seeing in these events. And a couple of those changes the face of everything. So... we've got a lot of stops yet to come. The top 5 cars are yet to take their final stop. So, of that, you say Gallo would be leading the second charge, but of course he's quite a way back now.
Just to give you an idea of how much time Euro lost, he's just served that penalty, so it must have been half second, then 4 track limits. He's lost 0.8 of a second as a result of that. So it was a half second penalty, but of course the lost time from the speed that you then have to get back up to. So the gap has gone from 4.2 down to 3.2. Now, so a second net loss time as it's all worked out here. As we look at Kai de Bruyne, still owes a pit stop. Moreno also owes a pit stop. He's been on the soft tyres in the middle stint of the race, and he's going to be going on to the hard tyres at the end of this one. So I don't think he's going to be any particular threat for the top 5. Drew Mont also into the box there as well, who'll be going on to the soft tyre. So you'd imagine he'll be mugging Moreno before the conclusion of this one. But we, again, need to keep a close eye on Gallo and on Takuma Miyazono. They are the two drivers to watch. They're on the soft tyre. The 3 in front of them all owe the hard tyre in the closing stages of this race.
And they basically all need qualifying laps now. Gallo and Miyazono, it's got to be qualifying lap, qualifying lap, qualifying lap. Think Schumacher, Hungary. It's got to be like that. You've got to go hard and go fast. And we know Gallo and Miyazono are able to do that with only 6 laps left remaining. There is Paul Ura's family here to support him as well. We're currently watching their family member in first position. Can he keep it there? The pressure, though, may be starting to get to him with that penalty. Kai de Bruyne, a great performance so far from the Dutch driver. We've always seen him at the sharp end in these cars, but never, ever discount this man. Jose Serrano's clawed his way back up from 6th from the grid up into 3rd place, and now is a real contender for the win here in Milan. So Kai de Bruyne going for another lap. Serrano in the wheel tracks in the slipstream using that draft. See the tyre wear there. Serrano's tyres much fresher than Kai de Bruyne. He's going to draft by up into 2nd place. Goes Jose Serrano past Kai de Bruyne, but de Bruyne's not giving it up. Yes, he is. Up into 2nd goes Jose Serrano. But these guys, these top 3, they all still owe a pit stop.
But don't forget, Serrano pitted a lap later than Ura and de Bruyne, so he can then, in theory, pit a lap later than it. So he'll do 1 lap fewer on that hard tyre, and that could be a crucial difference here for Jose Serrano. He's up 4 places from where he started. He's now got a nice bit of clear track in front of him as de Bruyne's tyres are coming towards the end of their life. It's Gallo who's now picked up a half-second penalty there here for track limits once again. That's going to drop him behind Takuma Miyazono and possibly bring his podium challenge to an end.
These are the little mistakes that cost you in these series, and it's so easy to do this. These guys are really pushing the limits. I know you might be watching at home thinking, well, I wouldn't do that, but trust me, when you're trying to really wring the neck of these machines to get every possible 0.5 of a second, it's just so easy just to put a wheel slightly the wrong side of the line and pick up that 0.5 second penalty. Now, Miyazono will bounce on that straight away, but these guys, they're both old hands at this. They'll work together now and try and move themselves both forward. Gallo, I mean, a 0.5 second penalty is a click of the fingers, really, but it's enough to slow down. And here comes, Paul Ura in the box now. Paul Ura boxing.
Yeah, Serrano also boxing as well. I thought he might try and get another lap out of those tyres there for Serrano, but he decides actually to come into the pits at the end of lap 23, and exactly the same strategy as Miyazono does get through on Valerio Gallo after the Italian driver has served that penalty. So could it be Miyazono who's now trying to get into the final podium places? Ura out of the pits onto the hard tyre. Likewise Serrano, likewise Kai de Bruyne there as well. Have to say, I'm struggling to understand understand the logic there of Jose Serrano. Maybe he just thought he was coming to the end of his shelf life, but his time on the lap last time around was 0.3 of a second clear of Pol Ura, despite the fact that they were both on worn soft tyres. Meanwhile, Miyazono and Gallo bearing down on those three drivers. The gap, 4 seconds with 4 and a bit laps to go here.
And they are fast, these two. Miyazono, of course, didn't have penalty last lap, did a 1:24.4, and to compare that to another hard run out there now, which is San Marino, he did a 26.5, so 2 seconds a lap now with 4 laps remaining. These guys are going to be charging hard, and De Bruin, Serrano and Ura are going to know this. They need to be clean and consistent now and worry about positions later. Ura has a nice buffer, 3 seconds at the front of the field there, fresh hard tyre. Serrano is there, I think, probably a little bit quicker than Ura, but not enough to take 3 seconds out of him in 4 laps. So it's really, the fight comes down to these guys and how quick they can catch the first 3 cars.
So out of Ascari we go then. The gap was about 4 seconds last time around. At the end of this lap, or coming towards the end of it, it's now down to 2.8 seconds. Kai De Bruin is going to be seeing 2 very fast charging X2019s in his rearview mirror before too long, led by Takuma Miyazono. Valerio Gallo now watching him in that slipstream. They're sort of joined at the hip at this particular point, but you'd imagine that Gallo, if he's going to get an inch, he'll take a mile. Here we go then, down the start-finish straight. Miyazono moves to the inside. Gallo blasts to the outside and goes through onto Takuma Miyazono for 4th place. Is the gap now for that final podium position down to 2.5 seconds on lap 24.
Yeah, these guys have a temporary pact right now. They're saying, right, let's work together to catch these top 3. Don't worry about our positions right now. And Miyazono doing that just by letting off the throttle, getting out of the way, causing no slowdown time for Gallo so he can pop back into the draft and go from there. 2.3 seconds now is the gap between Gallo and Kai De Bruin in front of him. And, you know, it goes down to the old adage that catching someone is one thing, but passing them, of course, is quite another. And Gallo's got to get there and get by the gap below 2 seconds. Here is where this soft tyre really has the advantage over the hard. That middle sector where all those medium speed corners are. Here's where now you can see Gallo will be able to see the back of Kai De Bruin, and just having that mental advantage of seeing yourself catching the car in front, that's worth even more time. So it's really all now coming to a head with only 3.5 laps to go.
Yeah, they might be on to Jose Serrano before the end of this one if they drive some absolutely brilliant sectors and dispose of De Bruin very quickly indeed. The gap to him is only another second or so up the road. Let's wait and see how it goes. Through Alboreto we go. Gallo so early on the power there on the soft compound of tyre, and De Bruin is now going to be coming under pressure here from the Italian driver. Don't think Gallo's going to be quite close enough to launch anything as we come in towards the Retta Filio chicane, but maybe a strong exit out of there through the Curva Grande and into the Della Roggia might be the first chance that the Italian needs to get onto the podium here.
Give you some context, it's 2 seconds a lap faster, pretty much, is Gallo on that tyre.
Oh, De Bruin's got a penalty.
That's the second penalty, so that's going to be enough, really, for Gallo to get by if he can get onto the back of him. But is Kai going to hold him up? Would you do that if you were Kai De Bruin? Probably. You're all fighting out there for competition's sake, but that's basically a free 3rd place now for Gallo. So if you're Gallo, do you now look beyond Kai De Bruin and look to Serrano and think, right now the gap to him is, well, roughly 2 and a bit seconds. I can catch him. But look at this middle sector. Look how much faster Gallo is through here. And there's no doubt in my mind he'll be being held up slightly through Ascari. Will Kai De Bruin fight it, or will he just let him go?
Well, Gallo, surely he's just got to get through like Gallo hasn't got that penalty. He's got to depose him as soon as he possibly can. Can't afford to sit in his wheel tracks every moment, every corner. And the problem is, in Ascari, it's so much one line through there. We're going to come through the exit of it. De Bruin's going to pull off the racing line, and Gallo is going to go siding on through for that final podium place. To the roar of the crowd here in Milan, Miyazono also following suit as well. Could these two drivers on the soft tyres of Gallo and Miyazono challenge for the final 2 podium places? One is already on, and there's going to be 2 laps to go at the end of this one.
Right, so it's 1.6 seconds now between Gallo and Pol Ura, the leader. Sorry, 3.6 seconds or so. And that is roughly the deficit that Gallo has over Ura in terms of tyres. So he can catch him. On pace he can catch him, but he's got to get by Jose Serrano and then get by Pol Ura. So we're going to have a real grandstand finish here. But bear in mind, of course, these soft tyres, they're starting to go off. We're seeing some tyre wear now for Gallo and Miyazono on those rear tyres. So they've had the best out of this soft compound, whereas that hard compound just sort of goes forever. But watch on board now as we come through this first chicane and going through these right-handers coming up here, the Lesmos. Look how quick this car is. Oh, Gallo's picked up a 0.5 second penalty. Oh, Valerio, not again, brother.
Well, much like the World Cup, it's going to come down to penalties here, I think, which is going to decide this one in the final podium places. Gallo can see Serrano in his sights, and he could challenge for second position, but that half-second penalty is going to cost him very dear, and it might open the door here for Takuma Miyazono to return to the rostrum. Through Ascari we go. Gallo's going to lose about a second or so net lost time, and Miyazono is going to say thank you very much, and surely the Japanese driver is going to blast on past Gallo as we head down into Alboreto. Gallo's going to try and defend it on the inside, but nothing he can do against the charge of Takuma Miyazono. And is that the moment there where the battle for second place will come to an end? 1 lap to go here at Monza.
So here we go then. This is really going to be the fight. It's now between Miyazono and Gallo. If these guys fight, Serrano's going to get away. Miyazono defending. Gallo going to the outside now. He's going to have to make him work hard. Miyazono squeezes him to the outside there. Gallo has no choice but to tuck back in again. And now it's the fight between the Italian driver and the Japanese driver. Two extremely experienced hands here. And in the Gran Turismo World Series. And this is a godsend for Pol Ura and for Jose Serrano. That gap at the front, by the way, down to 1.5 seconds. Serrano's really reeled Ura in, but it's running out of time. Likewise are these two on the soft compound tyre. Gallo's made a mistake. He's off. He's hit the grass and he's round. The pressure gets to Valerio Gallo and he is off, to the dismay of the home crowd here. But to the elation of Miyazono, Serrano and Ura. Oh, what a shame for Valerio Gallo.
Stunned silence turns to consolidating applause for Valerio Gallo as he drops down to 9th position following that mistake on the final lap, demoting him out of podium contention. Such a shame there for the Italian driver who was being superlative out there on the circuit. It's going to promote Takuma Miyazono onto the podium, who hasn't actually won a race, of course, since 2024 in the World Finals. But for Pol Ura, what a drive it has been for the Spaniard. An absolute commanding performance as he exits out of Alboreto, takes to the line and to the checkered flag. Pol Ura wins the Nations Cup here at Monza for the opening round of the Gran Turismo World Series in Italy, and it's a Spanish one too, with Serrano leading them home in second position as well. Takuma Miyazono on the rostrum in P3. A fantastic end to that race. Drama right down to the final stages. Delight for Pol Ura, delight for Serrano and for Miyazono, and dismay for Valerio.